The absolutely pathetic usage of a slur.
Where's my money? You gonna give me my money? Where's my money, man? Where's the money?
What was that? What was that? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I am your host, Joe Neerman, a.k.a. Good Lawgic. Hope you all had a phenomenal weekend. This was a very, very unusual weekend, as I'm sure you're likely aware. A lot of strange goings-ons in the world. A couple of tragic shootings, which were just horrifying, by lunatics. Rob Reiner getting slain allegedly by his own son. And today we also had the start of Judge Dugan's trial, where she's being tried for her obstruction of ICE officials and purposefully trying to help a suspected illegal alien evade capture by ICE. All that and a lot more coming up in tonight's show. I hope you're going to stick around. If you like the content here, please make sure you hit like and subscribe, do all that good stuff there. And yeah, I'm going to just jump right in here because I have so many things that I want to cover with you guys tonight. Not all of them, so as those of you who are familiar with the show, and I want to welcome those of you coming over from watching The Watchers. Those of you who are familiar with the show are aware of the fact that I often will sort of splice in a couple of other side stories that I think are of particular note, because I think it's things you need to know, but it's just, if I was going to reference every single thing in my title there, in that case, the title would just have to be like 400 characters. And fortunately, probably for everyone involved, they limit my character number to 100, which means that I can't always tell you everything I plan on sharing with you. But I think tonight I want to start off. Let's start off by talking about a side story which just came out in the last couple of hours. Very short thing, which many of you are going to find to be good news. Those of you familiar with Judge Boasberg, some of you may have heard of the DC of the district court judge, the head of the district court in DC. His name is Judge Boasberg. And he became infamous, notorious overnight, I guess a hero of the left, when he ordered Trump to turn those planes around and send them back, bring back people who were being removed from Texas and flown south of the border. And he said, no. I'm issuing an emergency order. No planes flying out. Any planes that have flown out, turn them the hell around. Bring them back here. Purportedly, allegedly, Trump did not turn those planes around. Those folks ended up flying on down to Seacott, and he kind of lost his crap. He lost. Now his order was overturned. Everything was overturned because who the heck thinks you have authority to direct the president what to do with his planes? And even if you did, that authority might apply to planes that are in DC. But you think you have the authority to start issuing orders as to what he could do with planes in Texas? That sounds, I don't know, kind of foreign under American law. Kind of removed from what American law, the grant of authority you have under American law, which is what you're purporting to act under. So that didn't hold up. But he still said, no. But my order, while it's still there, it's there. There's contempt. And I want to go after him for contempt. Now, this is a criminal contempt. He's trying to go after them, the perpetrators of violating his very, very holy and significant and important court order, which is later overturned. But your disrespect here has to be held to account. In order to understand what we're about to read here and just how beautifully this man lost, and he did lose on this issue when he got appealed, because even the DC Circuit Court, far to the left DC Circuit Court was like, what the heck do you think you're doing? What are you, dude, what are you doing? They're like, this has no resemblance to anything under laws of criminal procedure. And specifically, they came out with an order basically pretty much asking that very question, saying, what do you think you're doing? You don't have the authority to do that. He's moving for what's considered an indirect contempt. Now, direct contempt, in case you're wondering what's the difference between when a judge is bringing someone for contempt orders. So a direct contempt is for actions that happen in front of the judge, right? So just picture this. Someone comes into like a courtroom and they're basically, start flipping off the judge. You have to show respect to the judge when in the courtroom. This is something he perceives with his own eyes. It's right there in his own courtroom. That's a direct contempt, as opposed to if he tells you do X and then outside of his purview, outside of anything that he has direct knowledge of, he believes that you violated. That's called an indirect contempt. And the DC Circuit Court was just astonished by the steps that Judge Boasberg was attempting to take here with respect to this indirect contempt, specifically as they wrote here, is before Judge Rao, Walker, and Child, Circuit Court judges for the United States Court of Appeals, District of Columbia, for the District of Columbia Circuit. Upon consideration of the petition for writ of mandamus, the emergency motion for a stay pending resolution of petition for writ of mandamus, and the opposition thereto, and the notice to district courts, it is ordered on the court's own motion, meaning that we're to set down our own decision here, that respondents file a response to the petition for writ of mandamus not to exceed 8,800 words. Okay? So Trump ran in there to the circuit court, and his obviously not him specifically, but the DOJ ran down to the court saying, hey, we shouldn't be getting hit with this contempt order. And the DC Circuit Court here says, okay, you got to put in. So they put in with their motion the respondent now, which would include include a representative on behalf of the court, meaning Judge Boasberg himself, likely, that they should put in a response not to exceed 8,800 words by December 29th, 2025. And then petitioners, which is Donald Trump et al., shall file a reply not to exceed 4,900 words by January 5th, 2026. While not otherwise limited, the parties directed to address the following issues. And specifically, this is what he's telling the judge or counsel for the judge, because the way it works is the judge isn't the one who's going to write this opposition. I'm not sure what they call it in federal court. And we have the actual in New York State, for example, when I sued Judge Merchan to try and get Trump's gag overturned. So I had to bring a lawsuit and name him as a defendant. So he gets named. His counsel is the Office of Court Administration. So the opposition I had in that circumstance was the District Attorney's Office, Alvin Bragg's office, and Judge Merchan. Judge Merchan is represented by the Office of Court Administration. There's something similar in federal court, but I forget off the top of my head what the agency is, which represents Judge Boasberg. So Judge Boasberg's not the one who writes this up. It would be counsel on his behalf. But what they're asking his counsel to address here is federal law recognizes that criminal contempt may be direct or indirect. So there is such a thing. You can go after him for that. That's under C. Young versus United States 41 U.S. 787. That's cool. You can go after someone for indirect. A court may initiate criminal proceedings for indirect contempt through notice and referral for prosecution. So if you really wanted to do this, if this is what you thought was the best course of action, what you need to do is you need to give notice to the petitioner that you're planning on doing that, and then refer it out for prosecution. In seeking information about decisions made outside the presence of court and referencing the possibility of a referral for prosecution, the district court appears to contemplate indirect contempt proceedings. So it seems as if you're going to be having an indirect contempt proceeding here. And we need to know, because we're like, dude, what the hell? On what legal basis may a district court, number one, investigate possible grounds for indirect contempt? Like, where is your authority that you can be investigated, that you think that you have the right to start doing this yourself? You're supposed to farm this out. You're not supposed to be doing your own investigation the way you're trying to do in this case. So what are you even thinking here? So one, how are you investigating possible grounds for indirect contempt? Like, you're a part of the judicial branch. You're not. Where are you investigating? What do you have, your own private investigators? What are you doing here? And two, delay, and on what grounds you're delaying a referral for prosecution until it finds probable cause that indirect contempt occurred, meaning you're doing this whole scrounging. Like, you think you're some sort of investigative body here. Judge Boasberg's putting together his own CSI team to try and figure out what the hell happened here. So how are you delaying? You're saying, I'm not going to refer this to prosecution until I see this probable cause that they violated my order. Who gives you the right? What gives you the right to take any of these steps? Where are you coming from? That's what the D.C. Circuit Court is asking Judge Boasberg here. It's delicious, beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to see. Oh my gosh! When the system actually, when there are people who actually decide we're going to hold people to account to actually, work within the framework of what the rules say. Because that's what the D.C. Circuit Court is writing here. I'm sure that they're not big fans, Judge Rao, Childs. I'm sure these individuals are not big fans of Donald Trump. But even they are just astonished by the reckless disregard for basic laws of criminal procedure that are being exhibited here by Judge Boasberg. Because Lord knows the guy seems to think that he has no bounds. There are no bounds that confine that man. There's an old joke which basically is asked, what's the difference between God and a federal district court judge? And the answer is that God doesn't think he's a federal district court judge. So, yeah. I'm gonna say the Judge Dugan thing for last, because I want to make sure that all the possible information is filtered through. So I'm going to say that for last. Also feel as if Robert Gouveia likely did a good job of covering the first part of that. So I certainly feel as if I don't want to be repetitive 10 minutes after the guy just went out there and did his thing. That's not serving your interests or mine. So instead, I want to start off by talking about the terrible slayings that we saw over this weekend. The terrible slayings. I'm going to start with Brown University. Let's start. I'm going to start with this special news report here from NBC News. That's not good.
Shooting at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island, leaving at least 2 people dead, according to officials there. Police say the shooter is not in custody at this time. Officials just...
And sadly, he's still not in custody. There's a manhunt that is ongoing right now. We're going to see more about that soon.
Gave an update in the last couple of minutes. Here's some of what they had to say.
There is a shelter in place in effect for the greater Brown University area. If you live on or near Brown's campus, we are encouraging you to stay home and stay inside.
I want to bring in national law enforcement and intelligence correspondent Tom Winter, who is on the phone with us this evening and following the very latest. So, Tom, 2 people lost their lives and there are 8 in critical?
That's correct, Jose. This investigation being led by the Providence Police Department, which is where Brown University is located. The Rhode Island State Police SWAT units are on the scene, and the FBI has spent its evidence response team as well as its victim coordinators. Those will be the individuals who will try to talk to some of the victims, those that have been hospitalized, as you referenced. It provides comfort to them, as well as to try to get information to help with this investigation, which at this point doesn't have a whole heck of a lot of leads at this hour, as they're looking for a person who was dressed in all black. That was the initial description that officers provided over the radio when this incident first occurred. And then shortly after entering the building, according to those radio transmissions, they were able to see victims nearly right away and were trying to evacuate them, the ones that could walk, on foot and out of the building. This apparent incident where it occurred, there were exams that were going on at that time. There were students that were studying. So obviously a frightening evening and afternoon.
Horrible.
So far, police have not been able to locate the gun that was used in this incident. So they're still looking for that. And according to video that we've seen from eyewitnesses, they're currently canvassing the entire campus area, as well as the rooftops, the stairwells, all the types of things that you would imagine they would be looking for.
And the manhunt is still going on now. The manhunt for this individual is still ongoing. They've been releasing, and I usually don't like covering shootings just because, like you, I'm horrified by them. It's not like I'm living with. I don't try to put my head in a bubble. I just feel as if I don't want to cover something that you already know about, and that my feeling about it can be. It's not like I feel like I'm offering any sort of novel perspective. It's horrible. It's terrible. So why? Like, what am I going to add to that? It's terrible. So if I don't feel like I have something to add, I don't really want to cover. I really don't want to cover it because I feel as if I'm not adding value to watching me talk about just how horrible a shooting is. So that's why I tend not to cover those. But since there is a manhunt, and I have no idea if someone who might have some sort of information may ultimately end up watching my broadcast, I feel like I should share some information on that to the extent that I may indirectly be some sort of service as far as helping this monster get caught. So I'll share a little bit more about that. Police are pursuing a new lead based on photos and videos of an individual taken around 2 p.m. Saturday, hours before the deadly mass shooting at Brown University. The Providence Police Chief said today. FBI also released a description saying the shooter is approximately 5'8" with a stocky build. Earlier, a person of interest in connection with the attack was released. Providence Mayor Brett Smiley said the person has been cleared in the investigation. Rhode Island Attorney General Peter Nerona said the shooting left 2 students dead and 9 others injured at the Ivy League school, where classes and exams have been canceled. The campus remains on edge. And like I said, they say this is 5'8" with a stocky build. I'm going to give you more to go on than that, though. And that specifically is here. Several new videos of the possible Brown University shooter have just been released from private home cameras prior to the shooting. FBI is now offering a $50,000 reward for information. 1-800-CALL-FBI. And I agree with Nick Sorter, this individual needs to be found now. So that's why I'm going to share this with you all.
This is the first video that we're showing you. This is the individual walking on the sidewalk of Benevolent. And this is prior to the incident. Here we go again with this video too, Mike. Again, you see him walking.
Fetch Lub.
You want to the third video? And you want to, this is some photos of this individual. And they will all be timestamped. The last photo. Thank you. So we'll be providing this as well, and I ask you all to please make sure you put them up, and then anybody in the public that has any info about this individual, we ask that you call our tip line, and we'll also have the numbers in the website listed. Yeah.
So there you go. If any of you have any sort of insight as to who that individual may be, in that case, again, the number to call is 1-800-CALL-FBI. Right here, 1-800-CALL-FBI. So there's really not much more I can add on this other than that this is horrible. There's a horrible tragedy. And as far as what the motives were or what led to this, who knows? I mean, the only thing we do know is that the left is going to say, this is what happens because we have guns. That's what they're going to say, which is obviously silly and a waste of everyone's time, but that is what we can anticipate is going to happen. That was in Providence, Rhode Island. And that was on Saturday. On Sunday evening, Sydney, Australia time, which is really like Saturday evening here because they're way ahead of us. There was terrible shooting in Sydney, Australia, where 25 people, including children, remain in a hospital after a shooting attack on Sunday at a Hanukkah celebration at Bondi Beach, health officials said Tuesday morning local time. A father and son are accused of killing at least 15 people in an attack which Australian officials designated a terrorist incident targeting the city's Jewish community. The ages of the victims range from 10 to 87. The attack unfolded about 6:45 p.m. Sunday, that's their time, during an event marking the first day of Hanukkah at Archer Park, a grassy area near the beach. New South Wales Police Commissioner Mal Lanyon said more than 1,000 people had gathered for the celebration when the attack took place. The Australian Broadcasting Corporation named the father and son accused in the attack as Saeed Akram, 50, who was also killed, and Naveed Akram, 24, who was hospitalized. You may have seen video of one of the shooters being attacked from behind by a very brave rescuer who wrenched the gun away from him. So I don't think I can share it here. I think if I share it here, YouTube is not going to be happy because it displays the person is like shooting into a crowd, even though you don't see who he's shooting from the video angle. But that individual is obviously incredibly brave, just remarkable. And God knows how many lives he managed to save. New South Wales police acknowledged the names had been published in local media and did not dispute them, but said they would not release names until a living suspect was charged and the deceased had been formally identified. Officials vowed to pursue tougher gun laws because that's what everyone does. We don't actually do anything to fix the problem. We're just going to pretend that guns are the problem. So we're going to ignore who it is that's doing the shooting in this, what their motivations are. We're going to ignore all of that particular issue and just pretend that we're going to solve this problem if we get rid of guns. That's essentially what the Australian police do. They are one of the canaries in the coal mine, warning us just how stupid the left can possibly be. So officials are pursuing tougher gun laws because they don't know anything else that they can say or do, and they're incompetent. Including potential firearms licensing reforms, as police confirmed one of the shooters was a gun club member, and held license for sporting style weapons that appeared to be used in the attack. Wouldn't it have been helpful if, the victims were armed themselves? Wouldn't that have been a way to stop this? So maybe you wouldn't have 15 dead? I don't know. Older gunman first arrived to Australia on a student visa in 1998 and had since held legal status in the country via partner visa and resident return visas, Australian Home Affairs Minister Tony Burke said Monday. That could be a different answer, that maybe you shouldn't be giving out so many visas. That would be another way of addressing the problem. I don't know. Like, why is that not a better answer? So if you don't give him access to a gun, so this lunatic would be slashing people, that wouldn't leave people dead? The idea is to remedy the situation. So why do you think tougher gun laws are going to do that? His son is an Australian-born citizen, the minister said. Australia's domestic spy agency, the Australian Security Intelligence Organization, looked into the son for about 6 months, starting in 2019. Agents determined that he was not a threat and discontinued their investigation in him. And as I mentioned, there was a civilian lauded as a hero after he wrestled a gun from one of the suspected shooters and has been identified as Ahmed Al-Ahmed. He was seriously injured. And there you go. And here's some of the photos of them morning. Horrible. This gives me an opportunity to talk to you all for a moment about what Hanukkah is. Many of you may know what the celebration of Hanukkah is. Many of you probably do not. So I'll share with you. The story of Hanukkah goes back to the days of the Second Temple, during which time the Greeks were in power and they ended up conquering Israel. And they, at the time, there was a temple that was standing They went in there and defiled the temple. Part of the daily services of the temple was that they would light the menorah. They would bring sacrifices every day in the temple. And they also would light the menorah. The menorah candelabra that they had in the temple was not the eight stem plus one that you'll see frequently today. When you see a standard menorah today, it'll have 9 stems, which is one considered like a servant type of candle, and another, and then there are 8 more. The one in the temple, which we call the Beit HaMikdash or the Beis HaMikdash, depending on where you're from, it had 7, and not 8 or 9 that we have today. It was a different type of menorah. Part of the service that was that the Cohen priest would light the menorah each evening, and it would burn through the night. The miracle of Hanukkah is celebrating a couple of elements of what happened. The oil that they're supposed to use is a pure oil, which has to be kept pure, not be touched by hands that are under Jewish law considered impure. Impure hands can be hands of an impure Jew or non-Jew. And when the Greeks took over the temple, they purposefully defiled all of the oil. They kept the oil in these jars and would have the jars sealed. And by sealing it in the jar, it would remain pure. So when the Greeks came in there, the Jews had stores of oil, like little oil flasks, some probably larger than others. And they would store it away for when they would need it. So when the Greeks took over the temple and defiled it, and purposefully were trying to desecrate it, they were doing everything they could to desecrate it. They brought like a pig as a slaughter on the altar. They were purposefully trying to defile the temple. So they also destroyed all the flasks of oil. When, through complete miracle, thanks to God, Jews who were outnumbered managed to oust the Greeks, take control. It was an uprising of the religious Jews who basically were, because not everyone was as religious as others. The objective of the Greeks was not to kill all the Jews. Their objective was actually to strip them of their Judaism. Unlike the miracle that we celebrate in Purim, the days of Haman, where his objective was just kill all the Jews. That was not the objective of the Greeks. The objective of the Greeks was to basically make them idol worshippers. The Greeks had, as you likely have heard of, much of Greek mythology, and they basically wanted their subjects to follow Greek mythology and bring sacrifices to their plethora of gods that they would bring sacrifices to. So what they did was they issued bans about carrying out certain Jewish practices, like maintaining the calendar that we have, recognizing the Sabbath, circumcision, things that made Judaism specifically unique were banned. And a lot of Jews, under the weight of the Greek government and in particular the Greek armies, they basically subjected, and they went along with it. And some religious Jews, specifically the family of priests, the high priest, meaning that the head priest from the Jews was an individual by the name of Mattityahu, and he and his sons, he had 5 sons, the most famous of whom is Judah. They're referred to as Judah Maccabee. Maccabee is just Hebrew for hammer, and they didn't have last names back then, so it's not like that was a last name of his, but people refer to him as Judah Maccabee because he was like the fiercest warrior, I guess. And that they led basically a very small band of Jewish dissidents to defeat the Greeks, chase them out, and got control of the temple. When they got control of the temple, they wanted to light the menorah. And it was on the 25th day of Kislev, which is a Jewish month, which is what was this past Sunday evening. And they searched and searched through the temple, and all they can find is one small flask of oil. They only wanted to use pure oil, and they were like, we don't want to do this without pure oil. And they only found 1 day's worth. And it would take them 8 days to make new pure oil, because first they have to be purified, which is a 7-day process, and then they could go make the oil. So they said, okay, we only have enough for 1 day. We're just going to light tonight and burn through it. And they lit. And the miracle of the oil is, despite the fact that it was burning through the night, that the oil was not consumed. And so too for the second night, third night, fourth night. 7 nights that should have been, there was 7 extra nights of oil that they were not supposed to have. That is why there's 8 nights of Hanukkah. The question is, why do you have 8 nights? If you have enough oil there for 1 day, you should only be lighting for, so the miracle's only happening for 7 days. Why would you be having an extra day? This question comes up, and there's literally 100 different answers. Whether it's celebrating the victory, there's an extra night for celebrating the victory, or some argue and say that they only use 1/8 of the jar of oil, which to me doesn't make sense that they would have done that. Anyway, but that is the miracle of Hanukkah, which is what we're celebrating. What is the reason behind this miracle? The reason I'm bringing this up now is because in the wake of the attack on Bondi Beach, so I've gone into different chat rooms of people who talk about like what the appropriate response is, or what should Jews do. I didn't go up on stage. I didn't address them. I was just sort of eavesdropping. And as you will often hear, you will hear Jews come up with all sorts of different solutions as to like what to do in the wake of virulent anti-Semitism, violent anti-Semitism. And it's not, it's a very serious problem, which is probably more front and center today than at any point in my life. So I understand it's a genuine and serious concern. To my fellow Jews who are sitting here contemplating, what should you do? What should you do? The answer is relatively simple. And I'll tell you why I personally felt affected by this. This is something I haven't told anyone. I'm only actually saying this out loud for the first time now. The reason I personally felt affected by this is because this is not the first time in my life I ever contemplated there being violence against Jews just because of our DNA. This is something that you sort of, when you grow up in Orthodox community, you come to expect that, hey, you know what? At some point, anti-Semitism tends to rear its ugly head in very, very graphically bloody ways. So you think about like what happened in the Holocaust, what would I have done if I was in Europe then, and where would I have acted and what I've done? The reason this affected me is because ever since I was a little kid, whenever I thought about dangerous anti-Semitism, the dangers of like, literally being hunted for my DNA, to be killed for my DNA, I always thought I had the perfect solution, the perfect answer. To me, it was obvious. I'm like, I don't even understand why people don't see this. To me, the most obvious thing in the world. If they're hunting you, leave. And where would I go? And I had 2 answers to this. My entire life. I'm talking about like since I'm 15 years old. I was like, when I grow up, I'm going to tell my kids the same thing. Hey, you ever find yourself in a situation where the country you're in, for one reason or another, really, really wants to see you dead, which could happen? You know what you do? You leave. That's what you do. Don't just go. Don't try playing a hero. Go. If they're literally hunting you because you're Jewish, just get the hell out. Go. Unfortunately, that's the nature of diaspora for the last 2,000 years. And where would I go to? Well, my 2 answers were always this: South America and Australia. I'm like, no one cares about Jews in South America or Australia. That's literally what I always said in my brain. I never even talked to Lady Lawgic about this. I was like, all right, look, when I'm like, God willing, many, many decades from now, laying on my deathbed, that's what I'll tell my kids. Or if the situation, God forbid, had gotten out of hand, I would tell them sooner. Like, hey, look, South America, Australia. That was the plan. So in the time I'm like 15 years old, I'm just like South America, Australia. No one cares about what's happening down there. No one's chasing you there. And this, to me, this attack here was kind of a splash in the face, where it was like God saying, like, no. You know, there's no safe haven you can run. You can run into Australia. I know that there's been no attacks in South America. Yeah, the same way there's attacks in Australia, we attacks in South America. Yeah, so that's why, to my fellow Jews, what I am telling you this. I know I didn't get up on stage. I know I didn't speak to you. I was listening in the audience for a little while to one of the larger Spaces hosts. Does phenomenal work. Very smart woman. And all these Jews are all contemplating, what should we do? What should we do? What should we do in this circumstance over here? Should we, fight? Should we like raise money? Should we do this? Whatever, and who should we go after? And the propaganda, what should the messaging be? I'm like, you people. The answer is very simple. Okay. It's really very simple. Okay. This is what you do. You do exactly what your forebear Jacob did. Okay. There's 3 steps whenever you're facing ominous physical danger. Those 3 steps are this. Number 1, try to appease. Number 2, prepare for war. And 3, and most important, you pray to God. That's what you need to do. Now, you're not actually in an area where you could try and appease. I don't know, unless there's some sort of unless you're able to try and appease, and someone merits being appeased. You're not in that position. And unless you're like some general in an army somewhere, you're not preparing for war. Okay? There's none of this is something you're going to do. You're sitting there listening on a Spaces somewhere. I love you. Really, I want the best for you. I mean this seriously. This is what you want to know what you should do? Seriously, instead of spending time talking on Spaces and we strategize this way or that way, literally just redevelop your relationship to God. That is what I'm telling you. Just strengthen your relationship with God. Talk to God every day from your heart, not just saying words. Like, talk from your heart. Make yourself a better person. Look out for your fellow neighbor, Jew or Gentile. Make yourself a better, more productive member of society. That's what you do. That's what God wants from you. You do that, God's going to take care of you. That's what you do. It's really that simple. Take care of your own little bedroom, your own little 4 corners of the world, of your world, not the entire globe. 4 corners of your world. Make sure you're right with the world. Work on becoming more of an honest person. That's what you do. Make yourself a morally better person. Not someone who's looking to sneer down on others by being morally superior. I mean, genuinely better. Make better yourself as a person. In fact, one way that you could probably make yourself better as a person is a little less sneering down at others. And I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to any of you. And frankly, this is great advice, whether you're Jew or Gentile. But I was specifically addressing this to Jews because I see so many freaked out about this. And I too was rocked. As I said, all of a sudden, my safe haven here, it's like God basically telling me, there's no safe haven. What do you think? You can outsmart God. You're not outsmarting God. So. But anyway, apparently, it's not Muslim extremists who are the real threats. No, not in Australia. That's not the real threat. Here's the Prime Minister of Australia, Anthony Albanese, coming out, and he wants you to know what the real threat is in Australia.
We take ASIO's advice. Continue to work closely with our security agencies. We take ASIO's advice very seriously. We work closely with them. We receive regular updates as well. The Director General of ASIO has warned about a range of threats, be it anti-Semitism, the rise of right-wing extremist groups as well. And
that's what it is, the rise of right-wing extremist groups. That's what you perceive is the threat to anti-Semitism, the rise of right. You're sitting there seeing 15 people, women, elderly and from children to elderly, literally being carried to their graves and you are sitting here because of a pair of fundamentalist Muslims, and you're sitting here citing right-wing extremism as something that's imperiling. Look, I'm not saying that there's not a scenario here where that could play out. Yeah, I can easily play that out looking down the road, like, you know, several steps down the road. It's not hard to foresee that. But that's the threat. That's the looming threat that you take away here, Anthony Albanese. The right-wing extremism. That's what you draw from this? Doofus. Useless. It's like he's made out of fluff, this guy. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? What? Tell me. I want to know. God. Unbelievable. The rise of right-wing extremism. Oh my God, the peril. Oh my God, the peril. Like I said, could there be bigotry from right-wing extremism? 100%. You're an idiot if you see otherwise. And is there more bigotry from right-wing extremism today than there was 3 years ago? Yeah, 100% there is. Okay. Does that mean they're taking out guns and mowing down women and children? Because that's not what we were seeing. So maybe, you know, address like the shooters as opposed to like what you think in your head is where things are going to happen years from now. But you don't really care about the actual problem. You're just looking. What's so aggravating about this is this schmuck over here. What he's actually doing is he's trying to use a genuine tragedy as an opportunity for him to basically lambaste that which he does not like. He wants to use a tragedy to promote his own personal agenda, irrespective of the fact that his own personal agenda does not comport with the tragedy at hand. So he has his own stupid agenda that he needs to shoehorn into like this particular scenario and saying, well, let's worry about the rise of right-wing extremism. What the hell is wrong with you? Did you talk about the dangers of fundamentalist Islam? Did you bring that up? No. Right-wing extremism. That's what you need to be calling out. What a jackass. Sorry. The reason I brought up the miracle, by the way, the reason I told over the story of Hanukkah, which tonight is the second night of Hanukkah, the reason I told that over is because the entire purpose to the miracle of Hanukkah, the entire focus, the only reason we celebrate Hanukkah, the only reason is because we're basically recognizing how God controls nature and that oil, which is on fire, doesn't get consumed, and he's controlling nature to try and make sure to protect those who stay loyal to him, because that's what this was a conflict of. It was religious versus those who were like, all right, we're sort of like passing on this and like basically moving on to like Greek mythology. It is literally a reminder as to how imperative it is, more than any other holiday, how imperative it is to stay true to Jewish religion. And what I'm about to say now, is probably going to bother some of you. But once I'm on this topic, once I'm standing on this soapbox at this point already, what the hell? I need to get this off my chest. Okay. I just want to get this off my chest. I might be bothering you with what I'm about to say. In the past, I've talked about how there is this thing under American law where we can't, because of separation of church and state, so you can't put up Christmas decorations because that's supporting Christianity, and you have to put up things, recognizing other faiths. So they always will put up like a little menorah, and I made a joke how they'll spend $100,000 on the or $1 million on the Christmas trees and lights, and they'll put up a $5 menorah in the corner. The reason I make a joke out of that is because I don't want the menorah there. I'm totally fine. I don't need to have separation of church and state. Go ahead, put up your Christmas lights, put up your Christmas trees, make it look as beautiful as you possibly can. Awesome. You should be doing that. There should be that like everywhere. Go ahead, Do it. You should do it. But when you put a menorah up next to it in order to like appease or sort of show how open-minded or like, oh, we're embracing and celebrating diversity and culture. No, what you're actually doing is you're spitting in the face. You're unintentionally, it's not your objective to do it when they're ordering this. It's actually spitting in the face. There is no worse desecration of menorah than by putting it next to a Christmas tree. And this is the part that I know is going to bother some people, because I know when people are dealing with intermarriages, so they're like, oh, okay, we'll have a Christmas tree and we'll have a menorah. Trust me, God doesn't want your menorah, okay? He doesn't want your menorah. You want to have your Christmas tree? Go have your Christmas tree. You don't need a menorah there. Because all you're doing is it's like literally urinating on the menorah by putting it in that context. Because the entire point to the menorah is that like you're going to stay true to Jewish faith. So if you don't want to stay true to the Jewish faith, okay, I get it. Everyone makes their own choices. You're making your own choices. God bless. Go ahead, do that. But don't try to like retain your Jewish culture by putting a menorah there. Just embrace your Christmas tree. That's what you want to do. So go do that. And don't give me your little $5 menorah in the corner. I don't want it. It's literally like it makes a mockery out of it. It's worse than not being there. Much, much worse. It's almost like it's a way of like humiliating. And by the way, not because of the size. Even if it was like 50%, even if it's like 50% Christmas trees and 50% menorahs, which it wouldn't be and shouldn't be, that's still just as bad. It's not any better. It's not because of the relative size. That's not the point. The point is that the entire point of menorah is staying true to your Jewish faith. So if you're actually staying true to your Jewish faith, why the heck would you be putting up a Christmas tree next to it? You have to recognize that, hey, that's part of a different religion. And I hope all Christians go out and have a phenomenal Christmas. You should enjoy your Christmas. You should enjoy it and have a great time and celebrate. And I hope that it has uplifting and a time of family bonding. But, you know, different holiday religions are a recognition of like, hey, this is our faith. And this is an important part of who we are. And it's not like you can just like straddle that fence and put one foot in this camp and that foot in the other camp. That's just not reality. So it's like, okay, like I appreciate the gesture. I know that it's meant like to be kind. I know it's meant to be show concern or show like regard or respect. What I'm saying is it's actually disrespectful. It's unintentionally and ironically very disrespectful. Now, I don't get mad when I see people do that because I know they're not trying to show disrespect. But I'm saying if you actually understand what Hanukkah is about, it actually is like, you know, and someone were to the type who would take offense, that would logically be very offensive. So just don't do it. Just be like, hey, look, we're Christians. We're going to be putting up Christmas trees and laurel wreaths and giving Santa Claus and the whole 9 yards. And you should. I want you to. I want you to have a great Christmas. Merry Christmas. There's nothing that's I'd much rather you actually be celebrating Christmas than just ignoring all your holidays, because you're much better off if you actually have religion in your life. What I'm saying is, I don't need the little token menorah or a little dreidel you're going to throw me. I don't need it. It's actually unintentionally ends up being offensive, and that's what I'm saying to those of you who have both. Seriously, just forget the menorah. Just do it. Just don't bother with it. I know it's not a popular thing to say because I know in American culture there's a lot of people who will have both. I'm telling you now, as an Orthodox Jew, if you're doing it to try and show like your regard for Jews, you're actually showing more regard for Jews by just unplugging the menorah and putting it away. Anyhow, wasn't sure I was going to end up going over there, but we did. I got a bunch of chats to catch up on. Shalom, Joe. Is Judge Boasberg related to Brazilian Supreme Court Judge Justice Alexandre de Moraes? They look alike and act alike. This is true. They do. I cannot speak for who their dad is. You would think from the last name it's different, but I don't know. They do look and act a lot alike. I noticed that as well. Cars in Dimension. Ooh, that's a new one. Brown U. Gunner shouted, Allahu Akbar. Class was that of Jewish econ professor who studies Israeli economics. Also home of Jewish family in LA was up. Shver Susanna Zid. So you're saying that was an anti-Semitic attack also. Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise. That makes a lot of sense. Home of Jewish family in LA was shot up? Huh? Thomas Heberling 9651. Many Aussies are laying blame on government. The rhetoric against Jews started months ago when the government took their pro-Palestine position because they were worried about losing inner city electoral seats. Yeah. What I'm saying is this. You see, this is playing, and what this look, this is, and all these things, it should be called out. Yeah, you call it out, but like, this is not where your focus should be. What I'm saying is to my fellow Jews, that's not where your focus needs to be. That, oh, we need to have the JDL doing this or the ADL doing this or donate here or stop doing this. Yeah, okay, look, that's all fine. It's so secondary. It's so secondary. It's God basically telling you, come back. I'll tell you right now, we are living on the precipice of some unprecedented times. I am urging you, find your faith. Kolam kulo geshet sarma od ve'ikra lolafache klal. What this is a Hebrew phrase which was put to song by Shlomo Carlebach, I believe, which defines as the entire world is a very narrow bridge. The entire world is a very narrow bridge, and the essential thing is not to be at all afraid. It's true. Entire world, all of a very narrow bridge, and the essential thing is to have no fear at all. Oh, that's from Nachman Breslov. Yeah, they became famous. From Nachman Breslov is more chashuv than Shlomo Carlebach, but it became famous because Shlomo Carlebach put it to song. I pray you and all Jews convert to Messiah Jesus. Okay, I get it. I get that's what you think is in our best interest. I understand that, and I appreciate that you actually. It's in your own way. It's well-meaning. Islam isn't religion, it's a virus. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. And I'll tell you right now, I know a couple of amazingly good, great humans who are Muslim. It doesn't have to be. But sadly, it does happen too often. You want me to tear down the menorah of my city? Nice try, not full. Should. That'd be great. Oh my god. Jewish guy encourages people to rip down menorahs in their city. That'd be amazing. That's awesome. But they banned their evil guns. We must ban them harder. Shock a dog. Oh god, it's so pathetic. So pathetic. Why don't I see my... Oh, did I close this? Goodness. Pinochet's helicopter is deal. Don't use menorah anyway because I'm not Jewish. I get it. Nobody's perfect. I'm hoping to get a partial credit by celebrating the birth of a Jew at least. There you go. This is what I want to point out to you, by the way. Most of these irreligious Jews don't realize it. Celebrating Hanukkah by putting menorah next to your Christmas tree is akin to celebrating Christmas by watching a video on how to perform abortions. Okay? That's essentially the same sort of thing. Because the same way, the whole point of Christmas is celebrating the birth of Jesus. So like you're gonna celebrate Christmas by learning how to do abortions. If that's the same sort of like twisted, like what the hell is happening here? What the hell is happening here? That's the same level of affront that you would feel. That's what it's like when you take a menorah and you put that next to a Christmas tree. So, either one of which I think is a horrific thing for someone to be doing. That's terrible. T-Rex says, why do you think Christian Catholics and Hebrews have learned to get along throughout the world, but it seems like the Muslims refuse to get along with Christian Catholics and Jews? Because ultimately, Islam is about making sure, is an unrelenting passion to ensure that Islam is dominant throughout the world. That's essentially what the problem is. So those who feel as if that's their calling, of course they're going to basically be trying to destroy anything that's in power. That's why there's a phrase, Brigitte. I heard this first from Brigitte Gabriel. My father told me that it's a true phrase. That first comes Saturday, then comes Sunday, which is a reference to like first get rid of the Jews and then the Christians, because the whole objective is ultimately Sharia law everywhere. Allahu Akbar, may police be upon him. Randy, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you, brother. All right. So that's it on the shootings. It's not like knives can kill anyone, right? Only if you get rid of guns, everyone will be safe. There's no other weapons anyone has that could possibly harm anyone. No other weapons at all. No other weapons. But wait, what's this? And I'm not making fun of him being slain. This is what I've been saying about this online, okay? It's a terrible tragedy when any person. Murder is evil. Doesn't matter who the perpetrator is. Doesn't matter who the victim is. So this was an act of pure evil. And I hope that he rests in peace, Rob Reiner. He and his wife. Rob Reiner's son, Nick, charged with murder, held without bail and slaughter of Princess Bride director and wife, Michelle. That's the story here. Now, the point that I've been making online is this. You cannot deny Rob Reiner's talents, in particular as a director. He was pretty good as an actor. I'm not going to kid you. He played that meathead role fairly well. None of us realized that he could have ad-libbed all those lines himself, because basically that was like a very pared down version of the crazy leftist that guy would end up becoming. But if you're too young to know that Rob Reiner became famous to the world starring in a show called All in the Family, where he played son-in-law of legendary racist Archie Bunker, who this was set in the 70s. And Archie Bunker and his wife Edith had one daughter, Gloria, who was married to a liberal who basically moved into the house with them. And the constant clashes between, and the Archie referred to his son-in-law as Meathead. I think the character's official name was Larry Stivic. Michael Stivic. It was Michael Stivic. Yeah. So he played Michael Stivic, but his father-in-law Archie Bunker only ever called him Meathead. And they would have their political, cultural clashes where they would cartoonishly lampoon the racism of Archie Bunker. And he was a pretty good actor. He was a pretty good actor in it, at least to the mind of like a 10-year-old who was assessing his acting skills back when I was first watching it. And I don't know if I've watched it since I was like 12 or 15. So to my young untrained eye, he was a fairly talented actor. He ended up becoming just a remarkable director with one supercharged hit after another, from The Princess Bride to Few Good Men and When Harry Met Sally. I think he did Sleepless in Seattle. He has like just an enviable, well-earned host of accolades for movies that changed America, changed culture, were very impactful. When you're referencing lines from a movie that came out 35 years ago, you know that, hey, this guy made his mark. That's his work as a professional. His politics were just utterly deranged. Like utterly deranged. Guy became like a lunatic lefty who basically was broken, in particular by Donald Trump. He was always very strongly left, but he was particularly affected with Trump derangement syndrome. And yesterday, police found he and his wife slain. At the time, there was very cryptic how they died. First, it was very cryptic who had died. The initial reports were saying two people found dead in Rob Reiner's home, one 78, another 69. And people were like, well, that actually matches their ages. This is a strange thing it's a strange way to come out with it. I don't know if you're able to identify their ages, they must have known who it was. I mean, come on. It's not like people don't know who he is. But the point that I'm getting at is I don't think it's fair to like people sort of want to lionize someone in death as if all of a sudden that washes away whatever sins they have or whatever lunacy they have, or I don't know. What I would say is I think you're not being fair to him or yourself if you don't recognize the brilliant creations that he helped fill the world with. And I also don't think you're being fair to him or yourself if you ignore the lunacy that was spewing from his mouth on a regular basis, particularly as it related to Donald Trump. Guy was a crazy person. After Trump won in 2024, he announced publicly that he was checking into a mental hospital to get treatment. This is someone who's really psycho. It's the same derangement that we've seen from Robert De Niro, and just complete and total lunacy, and standing up for the craziest of leftist causes and promoting that, and in that sense, really poisoning the world with his ideology. This makes him not a good person. When you're sitting there, encouraging people with terrible ideas, I don't think you're a good person. I think you're harming society. I think that makes you, and if you're intelligent enough, which he certainly displays a great deal of intelligence based on the work that he produces, you're intelligent enough to recognize, to recognize what is quality from crap when you're making a movie. How can you not be intelligent enough to recognize what is quality from crap with respect to political policies? How can you be so stupid, so blinded to encourage, I don't know, transing children? Like, how sick in the head do you have to be to encourage the reverse racism that we've seen morphing and developing over the last 15 years? How sick and stupid, how twisted do you have to be? So in that sense, I think he's a very bad person. I think there's a sense of there's a brewing evil within him. And that's why I think the idea that he gets slain, potentially, I think he's a horrible person. And when I see a headline like this, which I haven't even read this article yet, Rob Reiner's son Nick charged with murder, held without bail, and slaughter of Princess Bride director and wife Michelle. Rob Reiner, troubled son Nick, fatally stabbed the famed director and his wife Michelle. We have pictures here. I don't know what this is. That's a different story. Because why not? After their LA home, authorities said Monday, Nick Reiner, 32, who spent years in and out of rehab for drug addiction, is in custody and being held without bail. Page 6 confirmed. He was detained Sunday night after police discovered the director of The Princess Bride and his longtime spouse had been hacked to death in their mansion. Like, this is the hacked to death is not the same thing as having, throat slit. Hacked to death is obviously psychotic levels of fury. The couple's daughter, Romy, found Rob Reiner and Michelle Reiner with their throats slashed around 3:30 p.m. Sunday and told cops the family member should be suspect. Romy told cops she thought the relative was dangerous, according to the report. Nick Reiner previously opened up about bout with addiction and bouts of homelessness. I was homeless in Maine. I was homeless in New Jersey. I was homeless in Texas, Nick told People in a 2016 interview. He said his first went to rehab at age 15 and ended up doing at least 17 stints in treatment. Yeah. I spent nights on the street. I spent weeks on the street. It was not fun. The younger Reiner said he could have died after bailing on a treatment center and living on the streets when he was just 19. It's all luck, he said. You roll the dice and you hope you make it. To help cope with his troubled life and demons, Nick Reiner told the celeb Glossy that he co-wrote the semi-autobiographical movie Being Charlie. So you're saying it's a lie? His dad directed the 2015 film, and the Princess Bride star Carrie Elwes appeared in it. It was very, very hard going through it the first time with these painful and difficult highs and lows, Rob Reiner told the LA Times in 2016 about his son's battle with addiction, and then making the movie dredged it all up again. Well, why would you do it? What are you thinking? What were you thinking? This is Nick in the center, I believe. That's Romy, Nick. Who else we got there? Maria Gillifan and Jake Reiner. This is Jake over here. But Nick Reiner acknowledged in his interview with People that his addiction made me who I am now, having to deal with that stuff. I met crazy great people there, so out of my element. Now I have been home for a really long time, and I've sort of gone acclimated back to being in LA and around my family, he said at the time. Rob Reiner's wife of 36 years, Michelle Singer Reiner, Nick's mom, were found dead in the Brentwood home Sunday afternoon. Stabbed to death with a knife after a heated argument. Yeah. So there you go. There you go. That was the story with this guy. But what made this story all the more interesting is let's see pictures. I don't think we need that. I don't think that's adding enough. I don't think it's enough value add. So what has the entire world abuzz is Donald Trump's Truth Social post about this, where he wrote, "A very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away together with his wife, Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness, and with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before. May Rob and Michelle rest in peace." Now, a lot of folks are saying that this is wrong, that Trump is going too far. This was just completely sick, what he wrote here. And that's my question for you. Do you think that this is there's something wrong with what he wrote here? Do you think that this is... And I put up a poll, and I announced tonight's show. Let me see if I can find it here. And I put up a poll, and I announced that's not what I wanted. By the way, I offered an extra hour worth of content tonight if we hit our goal. So far, we have 7 out of 15. I usually mentioned the goal earlier on. We're at 7 out of 15. That's not bad. That's not bad because we're about an hour in. So we're really just about on pace. Just about on pace. So I got a whole bunch of stuff that I wanted to cover with you, which I didn't even reference in the title. Didn't even reference it. Didn't even get there. But my question for you is, do you think that there's something... Do you think that this was wrong? Do you think his response here from Trump was wrong? And let me see where you guys were at on that poll. I'll share with you where the poll's at so far. I put it in the community. When I announced this show. Where do I see it here? There it is. Okay. So what our poll results are showing so far, my question is, Trump's post on Reiner slaying was out of line, 26%, just right, 24%, too kind, says 4%, and haven't seen it, waiting for Joe. So now we've seen it. This is it. When I first read this, I was like, I don't know about this one. I don't know about this one. And then I paused. And I was like, I wonder if Trump really thinks this is true. That, like, his son stabbed him to death because he got so angry at his dad for his continuous TDS. Like, that was like he ended up just driving his son over the edge by basically saying Trump is a failure, he's gonna bring us into World War III. Shut up, old man. Bam, bam. Like, is that what Trump thinks happened here? in which case he's just giving us the news as he sees it, and then there would be nothing wrong with this post. if that's what you think he thinks, well, then there's really nothing wrong with this. Shut up, old man. I don't know. Is it wrong for me to make that joke at this point? Did you see Al Franken's celebrity roast video where he joked about Carl Reiner saying Rob Reiner? Oh, and Benjamin posted it on the other site. I didn't see it. I didn't see it. Obviously not. Reiner was hateful and vile. He was hateful and vile. It's a little ticky-tacky, but it's typical Trump. Okay. All right. What did Rob say when Trump almost got shot? That's a good question. I tried looking up Rob Reiner, and interestingly enough, because I wanted to try and find posts of his to share with you so we could look back at the life and legacy of Rob Reiner. And, you know, basically see him for who he is, which I'm telling you now, I think is a horrible person. Still evil killing him. It's evil to kill a horrible person. It's evil. It's wrong. It's terribly terrible, and I mean that without any reservation. But yeah, it's almost like, you know, Ty Cobb was a phenomenal baseball player, and he was a horrible human being. So that's how I look at Rob Reiner or Robert De Niro. Like, they're great at their craft. You can't deny that they're great at what they do. They're horrible people. So I was trying to find quotes, and it seems as if X has basically nuked his account. Like, you can't find Rob Reiner quotes. I was trying to find Rob Reiner. I spent like only 5 minutes, and I was like, oh, wow, I guess they nuked his account. If I'm wrong, someone correct me on that. But I think they nuked his account. Rob Reiner loudly in public awards hatred for Trump like a badge of honor. Trump's post was not wrong. Reiner would be flattered. He's gotten a lot of anger. Trump has gotten a lot of anger directed at him for this post. You know what? Let's make a poll in here. I'm gonna make a poll. Let's make a poll. What is this? Doing that. Refresh this. Start a poll. I'll ask the same question that I asked over in my community, which is Trump's post about Rob Reiner was those. I'll have perfect. I'm going to have Trump's post about Rob Reiner was, and you can choose from wrong, perfect, or a little inappropriate. No biggie. Can you imagine if Trump actually sitting there and he's like, I'm checking the ghetto to see what you guys in Rumble think about his posts. Pinochet says Reiner's son's being framed for Trump sending SEAL Team 6 after his political opponents. That would be like the perfect way to like get your political enemy is like basically not just like do him in, but like frame his son. Joe, you missed my first one. I think it was here, Rob Reiner and Charlie Kirk, 128 into it. I apologize that I missed that. I don't know how that happened. I'm sorry about that, Zillion.
I felt like what.
Here's Rob Reiner. I appreciate this. That's what I probably should have done. I should have looked for clips of him. I think this is going to be him talking about Charlie Kirk.
Set us up nicely for today about grace and compassion. Here is Rob Reiner on Piers Morgan show after the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
When you first heard about the murder of Charlie Kirk, what was your immediate gut reaction to it?
Well, horror, absolute horror. And I unfortunately saw the video of it, and it's beyond belief what happened to him, and that should never happen to anybody. I don't care what your political beliefs are. That's not acceptable. That's not a solution to solving problems. And I felt like what his wife said at the service, at the memorial they had, was exactly right. And totally, I believe, I'm Jewish, but I believe in the teachings of Jesus, and I believe in doing to others, and I believe in forgiveness. And what she said to me was beautiful.
Yeah, and I think that's just right. And actually, it's kind of deeply connected to everything else we're going to be talking about.
So I think that that's actually him showing grace there. I'm very impressed with what he did there. That's... I appreciate you sharing that with me, Uzelian. I had not seen that. So, I mean, that clip speaks for itself. It implies that his derangement didn't, like, genuinely rejected the notion of violence. At least that's the public persona he's putting out there, which that's significant. It is significant. So that makes me feel like he was less horrible a person. Thank you. I can stand corrected. I still think the policies he was endorsing are very destructive, and only a very stupid man would think that they weren't. And I don't think he's a stupid man. So, but at least he's not advocating for violence. So that is not the looniest of the loonies, because there are some who are that quite loony, that they advocate for violence. I'm talking about, like, I found this clip earlier that I was like trying to figure out how would I how would I, where would be a good moment for me to share this with you? And this is actually a perfect moment here. This is someone who's clearly a much darker loony than a Rob Reiner.
Okay, so let me address this. People asking who is or what is the dark left? What do you stand for? Well, we're the fuck you side of the left. The gloves are off left. We were born as the pushback, the middle finger to the red hats, the response to everything that MAGA represents. We've all watched this insanity happening in this country, and we got tired of waiting for someone else to flat out say what needs to be said. So we'll do it. We're not here to debate or to respond with hugs when they throw haymakers. We are here to make it clear that there's a line, and they have continually crossed it. We're not worshiping politicians like cult leaders, and we're not pretending this is a disagreement between equals. This isn't just about policy differences. We are the clear response to the conservatives and their constant lies and unfettered bullshit. It's reality versus delusion, and we choose reality. We are everyone and everywhere.
You promote transgenderism. The reason I don't is because I trust the science. So who's in delusion?
We are the people you pass every day and didn't know we were on your side. And if
You're not on my side.
if you're hearing this and nodding your head, well, you're one of us too. We don't
I'm not in my head.
want to fight, but we sure as shit aren't backing down from one. And if they throw a punch below the belt, then we'll take them out at the knees. We are not extremist. We're just honest. We're not radical. We're just done being quiet. And we're not going anywhere. We'll still be here long after the fascists have pulled down their last MAGA flag. I am. We are.
What's your name? Tell us your name. Tell us your name. I'll tell you my name. I'm Joe Neerman. What's yours?
This is the dark left, and we are just getting started. And if you want to follow me on any of the other platforms, all my links are in the bio. Remember, I'm not the dark left. Together, we're the dark left.
Please something not H63GB. All right. You're very brave.
Please join me in helping to call out the bullshit and bring some sanity back to the conversation.
So yeah, Rob Reiner doesn't sound like he was that. I'm really glad you shared that with me, Rosalian. So I am curious where my poll is at, what you guys are voting on. Interesting. Interesting. Let me see what, let's see what. Divergence saying that Uzelian said earlier, first rant, Joe, are you going to cover Tyler Robinson's case being he's allowed cameras in the court? Yeah, of course. Of course I will. Thank you for helping me catch up on that. I'm less into the motions, but trial? Sure. Yeah. Oh, heck yeah. Try keeping me away. Try keeping me away. God bless him for that. We should have cameras in every courtroom. So if you're wondering where the poll is, which I am going to shut it down, the poll comes in at Trump's post about Rob Reiner was 50% saying a little inappropriate, no biggie. 28% saying perfect. And 22% saying wrong, which is kind of like what I would have expected it's come in. I was in that majority. I was like, it's a little inappropriate. I'm not like, it's not a moment that I'm very proud of. It's not a moment I'm very proud of, but it's like, let's not make this like, this is like, oh my God. Oh my God. It's a little inappropriate. Well, I mean, some people on the right, which I think Mays Love would identify as being on the right, says this is shockingly cold and distasteful. Even a child shows more tact in the face of tragedy. How is this any different from the people who are celebrating Charlie Kirk's death? He's not celebrating his death. He's saying rest in peace. His inability to show any restraint is scary considering his power. See, I think she's probably woke right. Here's another reaction from folks who have gone mad. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene calls out President Trump for his post about Rob Reiner death. Surprise, surprise. Northwest Georgia Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene is criticizing President Donald Trump after he posted about the deaths of actor Rob Reiner's wife, Michelle, calling the incident a result we refer to as Trump derangement syndrome. Taylor Greene said, Rob Reiner's wife was tragically killed at the hands of their own son, who reportedly had drug addiction and other issues, and the remaining children are left in serious mourning and heartbreak. This is a family tragedy, not about politics or political enemies. She could have come out like a lot harder. She could have come out a lot harder. To be fair, she really wasn't that aggressive with him. I don't even consider. I don't think that that's actually that. Oh, let's see what's more. Let's see what more is. Let's see what more she wrote. For many families deal with a family member with drug addiction and mental health issues. It's incredibly difficult and should be met with empathy, especially when it ends in murder. I don't really think that this is. I don't think that's. I think that's people trying to make more out of the fact that it's Trump versus MTG than it actually being a thing. So, all right. We're going to see if we're going to hit our goal, because I got like a bunch of things I wanted to cover with you, which I'm not going to have a chance to get to if we don't hit the goal. Like, for example, new policies with respect to people visiting the United States, which is making the left meltdown. Oh my God, it's making it meltdown. And various arrests that the DOJ have been making, and what was this one? Yeah, various arrests that they've been making, and other stuff that I'm not gonna have a chance to get to. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Depends on when we hit our goal. Maybe we do. Who knows? You guys tend to surprise me on that, but either way is good. All right, Judge Hannah Dugan. Judge Hannah Dugan. You might remember her. She became famous with this moment right here. She became famous. That's not what we want. That's not what we want. I don't need that. You're going to make me watch the whole 25 seconds, 30 seconds here? Okay. All right. Watch some Reiner clips from our other left shows. Trump is just being honest. Remember how Trump reacted to RGB? Very cordial. It's true. That is true. There's more of a personal animus here.
Judge Hannah Dugan, which is now underway. This morning, opening statements were delivered in the federal trial of.
That was the moment. That was Judge Hannah Dugan going to removing the ICE agents and clearing the way for her, to help her illegal alien escape.
Milwaukee County Circuit Court Judge Hannah Dugan. The government then called its first witness to the stand, an FBI agent who investigated the case. Adam Reif is at the federal courthouse in downtown Milwaukee to break down the first moments of this trial. Adam.
Amanda, good morning. We are off and running now in the federal trial that could have widespread national impacts on what judges are allowed or not allowed to do in their own courtrooms. For the first time today, we heard audio that was recorded.
It wasn't in her courtroom. It wasn't exclusively. She went outside her own courtroom to do this.
From inside Judge Hannah Dugan's courtroom on April 18th. A reminder, no cameras allowed inside these federal trials, and so we will describe the scene as best we can. About 40 people packed into that federal courtroom this morning to watch, and many more people are in an overflow courtroom watching as well. Judge Dugan again at the defense table wearing a black blazer, a cream blouse, and a black skirt. The prosecution giving its opening statement first. Assistant U.S. Attorney Keith Alexander started by quoting Judge Dugan as saying, "I'll do it. I'll get the heat." He added, "That's what the defendant said when she helped a man accused of battery avoid a lawful arrest. For 48 minutes, Attorney Alexander told the jury the federal agents' actions that day were routine. They identified them at security. They told two bailiffs they were there to arrest Eduardo Flores Ruiz. But when Judge Dugan was notified the agents were in the hallway, things changed, he said. Alexander played audio from inside the courtroom. He said from Dugan re-entering her courtroom and Flores Ruiz leaving, it took only 2 minutes and 49 seconds. He closed by saying the agents did not expect the judge sworn to uphold the law would divide their arrest team and impede their jobs. When it was time for Dugan's defense's opening statement, attorney Stephen Biskupik said, this is the most important week of her professional life. His key focus argued nothing Dugan did was out of the ordinary, a sign she was not trying to deceive or conceal. Biskupik said the door Dugan sent Flores Ruiz out of is just 11 feet 10 inches from the main door and had a federal agent to the left and a federal agent to the right. Another sign Dugan was not trying to help Flores Ruiz elude the agents.
Not at all.
He said the only interaction
Chasing them out of the
with
hall.
the agents lasted 19 seconds. He said no one told her there was a warrant to arrest Flores Ruiz. And he said Dugan had 33 cases that day, 20 set for 8:30 a.m. alone.
And she walked out of her courtroom. Why is she walking out? What is her motivation for doing that? Why is she doing any of this?
And fast proceedings were not unusual. The first witness.
But still, you see, the problem with that argument is she stepped off of the bench, went out into the hallway, and said, you got to get out of here. Why are you doing that? Just zip, zip, moving along. You got a busy docket here, Judge Dugan. What are you doing here? Why are you taking all these steps here? It's not just that you help them slip out a back door. It's that you chase the agents out of there for no logical reason. They're not in the courtroom with you. They're in the hallway.
Called is still on the stand before they break for lunch. It's an FBI special agent who is laying out the guidelines of the courtroom and also the layout, the floor plan. Now, one thing to note here for the jury, one juror already called in sick today. They are down from 14 to 13. That means just one alternate. The judge in this case said it is cold and flu season, but they have to be very careful. Everyone needs to stay healthy for the remainder of the trial. Amanda, back to you.
All right, Adam, thank you very much for that update. We will be in the courtroom.
And we're gonna be checking out a little bit more detail about what happened, because this is a crazy story. So let's hear from Adam Klarsfeld. I always call him that. I always call him Klarsfeld, but it's class. There's no R. It's just Adam Klarsfeld. Who is regularly in New York. I met this guy once. Just one time did I have the pleasure of meeting Adam Klarsfeld. Bit of a lefty. And here he is reporting on the trial with his play-by-play. Good morning from Milwaukee. Trial of Judge Hannah Dugan scheduled to kick off today at 9 a.m. Central Time. Look out for coverage throughout the week on All Rise News. There you go. Judge Dugan appears to be in good spirits as she sits between her attorneys at the defense table. Judge Edelman announces that one juror is ill. Parties decide when to proceed with only one alternate. Government wants to move ahead. Trial move ahead with only one alternate juror. Prosecutor opens trial with a quotation he attributes to Judge Hannah Dugan. I'll do it. I'll get the heat. That's what defendant Hannah Dugan said when she helped a defendant charged with domestic violence evade arrest, the prosecutor says. Dugan's clerk informed her that ICE was in the hallway. Then it was no longer business as usual. Then it was no longer a routine day, the prosecutor says. Prosecutor plays audio from courtroom that day. Per the audio, Judge Dugan initially planned to call a case of Eduardo Flores Ruiz after court was called into session. Then a clerk informed her that 5 ICE guys were in the hallway. 1 second, just stay right there, Dugan said. Prosecutor tells jury, quote, you're going to see a lot of video evidence into what occurred in the hallway. There's no audio in the footage. He shows jurors a photograph of Dugan and another judge wearing their robes and speaking to federal agents. I am sure that these federal agents will testify. There's another still frame of Dugan pointing with her thumb behind her, apparently gesturing for another federal agent to leave. Get out, she said, according to the prosecutor. Government plays more audio, apparently of Dugan, and a court report discussing how to exit through that door to get down the stairs. Oh, that's what they do. It's a normal Oh my God. Oh my God. This is not looking good for Judge Dugan from what we've seen and heard so far. All right, prosecutor. The judicial robe that the defendant wore that day did not put her above the law. To get him. Prosecutor says Dugan's views on ICE arrests inside courthouses are her right. Prosecutor. The defendant has strong views about immigration enforcement in the courthouses. For none of that is she on trial today. She's on trial today because those strongly held views motivated her to cross the line. And here we get the defense opening. Attorney Stephen Biskupik begins by noting that the non-public hallway emptied right next to the main door to the courthouse where federal agents were waiting. He quotes from some of those emails. Quote, does this mean Milwaukee County is cooperating with ICE? Immigration enforcement at courthouse is hardly routine. Snatch down my courtroom gallery. It's not your gallery. It's a hallway. There's probably several courtrooms. It's not out of your courtroom gallery. Biskupik quotes Chief Judge's advice to other judges in the courthouse about the administrative warrants. Quote, an ICE warrant does not compel courthouse personnel to cooperate. Biskupik quotes Judge Dugan's email on April 8th. Quote, I have seen in my court more people not showing up for court. I've had 2 immigration attorneys ask me just today about what protocols are in place. Biskupik says that the side entrance where the restricted jury hallway emptied into the public hallway, 10 feet, 11 inches from the main entrance. So, what does that matter? That's what she's on trial for, Biskupik says. Yeah, it's a different doorway. The 10 feet, 11 inches goes in. The agents were waiting in that hallway for the defendant and chose not to arrest him there, he notes. The distance between the side entrance and the main entrance is smaller than the width of your jury box, Biskupik tells the jurors. Here's my recap of opening statement Judge Hannah Dugan's trial for All Rise News. Witness testimony began with FBI agent Erin Lucker. Stay tuned for ongoing coverage throughout the week. All right, great. Great. Okay. Stay tuned. Give us more. Afternoon session begins with more testimony by FBI agent Erin Lucker. She's now reviewing emails from Wisconsin court representatives. These are very short things from him. I'm a little surprised, but okay. You have to deal with what we can only deal with the sources that we have, right? Service advisory. Most of Agent Lucker's testimony consists of identifying audio tapes, surveillance footage, and email messages being submitted into evidence. As a result, this feed will be sporadic during the testimony. Cross-examination of Agent Lucker has begun. Question. You're a federal agent, not an agent of the state of Wisconsin, correct? That's correct. How many times other than this case have you spent on the 6th floor of Dugan's courthouse? Not that I recall. Lucker agrees that defendant Eduardo Flores Ruiz walked by 2 agents sitting in the hallway. She agrees that Flores Ruiz literally walked right past one of the agents. Judge Dugan's trial gets its signal gate. The witness agrees that federal agents spoke to each other in a signal group called Frozen Water Group, indicating ICE. Okay. Dugan's lawyer notes that's not the preferred mode of ICE communications. Ooh. So? That's not the preferred mode? So? Okay. Look, you got to try and attack any way you can. Chip wherever you can. I get that. Prosecution objects after the defense attorney notes that there have been high-profile incidents involving private signal chats. Judge Adelson, I'll allow it. Why? Why is that relevant? How is that relevant here? That's a little weird. Why would you allow that? So because in other cases there have been problems with signal, why is there a problem? How is this relevant to anything, Judge Adelson? As part of your investigation, reviewing all the videos, you would agree with me that not a single one of those agents had anything on them that would indicate that they were from ICE. Yes, not displayed outwardly in the video. On redirect, the prosecutor prompts the witness to say that ICE agents didn't wear identification the day because courthouse arrests are meant to be low-key. Witness agrees. End of the first witness's testimony, 10-minute recess. Up now, supervisor inside ERO's Milwaukee field office. ICE's enforcement and removal operation. Okay. So it's a division of ICE, is ERO. The witness is Anthony Nimitz, who signed the administrative warrant for Flores Ruiz's arrest. Administrative warrant the Nimitz signed listed the top charge against Eduardo Flores Ruiz with strangulation/suffocation. But on cross, he says he didn't know the defendant was charged with that. And then Flores Ruiz faced 3 counts of misdemeanor battery. Okay. Next witness, Agent Jeffrey Baker. He's been detailed from the FBI to ICE's enforcement and removal. Do you consider courthouses arrest safe or unsafe? Safe. Baker says that's because security screening and set schedules. You know they're not armed because they had to go through security, and so they're relatively safe. You also know when they're supposed to be there. This is framing the government is seeking to repeat about the controversial practice at every turn. What's the controversial practice? That they're picking people up there? So I guess they're saying Judge Dugan's defense wants to say this is controversial because you're discouraging people from coming to court. Okay. Did you agree to wait until after the hearing to arrest Flores Ruiz? Yes. Agent Baker testifies about chasing after and ultimately arresting Flores Ruiz. The judge sees footage of the foot chase outside the Rainey courthouse. Baker says he presented the administrative warrant to Flores Ruiz's counsel. Baker says arresting the defendant outside the courthouse was not the plan. He planned to arrest Flores Ruiz inside the public hallway of the courthouse. Direct examination ends, and so does day 1. So look for his conversation with Katie Feng about day 1. Let's see if I can find something on that real quick. Let's see if we can hear from him. What is this?
The barbarism of.
Oh, I'm going to like this. Legal AF, which has 986,000 subscribers, which clearly seems like it's a lefty thing. This is when I was trying to find Klasfeld. I just put it in YouTube and search for Klasfeld and Dugan, and I got a bunch of clips from this Legal AF. I think I've seen this guy before. He's from what I recall, he was pretty stupid.
The barbarism of the Trump administration, its depravity, its lawlessness is on display in federal courthouses all around America every day, multiple times a day, dozens of times a day.
I've definitely seen this, Michael Pipick.
Hundreds of times a month, 1,000 times already since the Trump administration took office. And by and large, we're winning. The rule of law is winning.
Really?
The Constitution is prevailing.
Is it?
Sure, there's new reporting about 100 or so former federal.
Unfortunately, you're on the wrong side of the Constitution time and again. But
judges that in their retirement are calling out the alarm about the attack on the rule of law. Good for you. I appreciate your service.
Oh my God. Oh my God. This guy this guy posts a lot. Well, I thought that I was going to get something here from related to this, but sadly, it doesn't seem like that's meant to be. Does not seem like that is meant to be. Aiming for the goal, I need extra Joe logic today. I don't think it's going to happen. My gut says it's not going to happen today. I'm not going to kid you. Doesn't seem as if we caught the lightning in a bottle tonight, which is okay. Some days we do, some days we don't. We do or we don't. Depends on the day. But I definitely plan on following along with this Judge Dugan case in more detail for you guys, because I do think it's a significant case. Obviously, it only affects one judge directly, but indirectly, it does sort of send a message that whether or not judges have to be concerned that they're going to be held accountable for assisting these illegal aliens in evading capture by ICE. So if she's not held to account, what's to stop any judge from basically just skirting the law and taking the law into their own hands? It's horrifying. Genuinely horrifying.
Every day of.
So, yeah, I did have a bunch of other things that I wanted to cover with you, but I don't think we're going to make it today. I'll give you one thing, though, before I go. Before I get out of here, there's one more quick thing that I want to share with you all. Is this it? One more quick thing. Which is, I'm going to close with some good news for you all, or potentially good news. Because I like leaving you guys on a high, especially we had so much bad news this weekend. Let's leave it with something positive. Which came out just before the weekend. The United States could ask foreign tourists for 5-year social media history before entry. I'm liking it. I'm liking it. I haven't watched this clip. Let's see. I hope this clip is on point.
Okay, so I'm an attorney licensed in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, and I usually dread doing my CLE. The live CLE.
Sir, there's a new proposal from DHS that would see tourists from a lot of countries have to hand over 5 years of social media history to get a tourist visa. Are you concerned at all that if that's implemented, there would be a decline in tourism next year? And what sort of material do you think is...
We're doing so well. We just want people to come over here and safe. We want safety. We want security. We want to make sure we're not letting the wrong people come into our country. We're getting rid of a lot of bad ones from jails, from mental institutions, drug dealers. We're getting a lot of bad people, murderers.
Yeah, so he's fine with it. Tourists from dozens of countries, including the UK, could be asked to provide a 5-year social media history as a condition of entry in the United States under a new proposal unveiled by American officials. The new condition would affect people from dozens of countries who are eligible to visit the U.S. for 90 days without a visa, as long as they have filled out an electronic system for travel authorization, ESTA form. Since returning to the White House in January, President Trump has moved to toughen U.S. borders more generally, citing national security as a reason. Analysts saw the new plan could pose an obstacle to potential visitors or harm their digital rights. Boo-hoo. Asked whether the proposal could lead to a steep drop in tourism, he's like, nah, I don't care. We all heard that. U.S. expects a major influx of foreign tourists next year as it hosts the Men's Football World Cup alongside Canada and Mexico. I love this idea. I love this idea. Not everyone's a big fan of it. Listen to this woman about it. She's not happy. She's not happy. Oh, she's not happy. She's not happy.
And if I have to give you 5 years of my social media history just to step foot in your country, I'm just not going to go to your country.
Boo-hoo! Boo-hoo! Don't threaten me with a good time and tell me I should be crying about it. No. Oh, no. She may not visit my country. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Because, spoiler alert, absolutely nobody is dying to go to the United States right now.
That apparently is not true. Apparently, if only.
Right now. And they go, I live in Europe. As if it wasn't.
I don't get the joke. In other words, oh, Europe sucks, and even I don't want to go to like the United States because it sucks less than like. Oh my god! Oh my god!
The Americans who created the term Euro summer to come here. Why would we be stressed about not going to your country, bro?
We're not trying to stress you. You see, here's the thing. It's not about stressing you. Why would it be stressing you anyway? What are you hiding from? What are you afraid of? Just turn off your social media or don't come. We don't need you. It's fine. Like what are you doing on social media that you're afraid of turning it over? We don't need you. Don't come.
Americans and Trump are going to have to realize very quickly.
Oh, are we?
The world is so much bigger and grander to some extent than.
To some extent. Not really, but to some extent. Even when she's trying to knock the United States, even when she's trying to like put us down as if we're nothing, she has to sort of pause and say, it's sort of. I don't think she realized she said it. Do it again.
The world is so much bigger and grander to some extent.
It's obviously bigger. We're in the world. You can't be in something that's smaller than you unless you're like, in Harry Potter world. So yeah. We recognize that the world is bigger than us. We just don't really have much regard for it. That's all. We just don't really respect it that much. Not really that concerned about their thoughts and opinions or whether or not they want to visit. They want to visit, great. You don't want to visit? Okay. Totally cool.
Than the United States. I can get to France, Belgium, the Netherlands, all via one train. Spain.
Who cares? So go! Go to Belgium! Go to the Netherlands! Go!
Spain is literally like less than 2 hours away.
Ooh, it's even convenient. Everyone understands that the most important thing about your travel is how close it is. Wait, what? What? That's what makes it. That's the selling point. The selling point of my next door neighbor's house is like I can get there in 5 minutes. I visit there all the time because it's so exotic and exciting, and it's only it's only 6 seconds away.
I've already gone twice this year.
Oh, wow, you're killing us. You're killing us here, honey. What are you talking? Oh, wow.
I've already got 2 Europe trips booked for 2026. Why would I be itching and scratching my female balls to go to the United States to be treated like a foreigner?
Why would you have female balls? And what isn't the fact that you're there all the time the reason that you would be itching to go somewhere else? Isn't that the whole point to travel? Like I said, you can go to your Aunt Tilly's house all the time. The point is, now I'm going over there, which is not my Aunt Tilly's house. My God.
Like, I can't get that in my own country. Like, because until I can get an answer for why I would happily go to a place that will give me more headache for visiting there, I'm going to happily stay here in Europe.
No answers for you. I have no answers. There's no reason you should come visit here. There's none. Go happily stay there. You're clearly not sour grapes. You're clearly not bitter about this at all. Not at all. You're clearly very, very fine with the situation. Clearly not at all affected. Not at all affected. Not at all troubled by it. You're sitting here freaking out about how you go to Belgium twice a year. I didn't even know that that's like a thing that people are like, should I go to America? Should I go to Belgium? But I guess that is a thing. to someone from the UK. Okay, so go to Belgium. I'm totally cool with it. We're all good with it. We're all on the same page. You want to go to Belgium? We want you to go to Belgium. We're all happy about it. Bye. Have a good time.
Come on, get down.
Oh my God. That's Kimberly Online. So there you go. There you go. So apparently some people are not too happy about the new proposal. Not too happy. Oh my God. Oh my God. I thought I was going to have a short day today. God bless you guys. God bless you. Brian Oldenkamp came in here. He's like, no. No, sir. No. You're going to make me buy 7. I wasn't gonna. I was busy covering a story. I was doing what I was going to do. I was really fine. I was like, I can go watch some Monday Night Football. I'm like, I'm okay. It was a brutal weekend. I'm not going to kid you. It was a brutal weekend. Audio guy Joe, who's awesome and helps me out all the time, basically was playing me in the playoffs this week and like obliterated me before I even got out of the show on Thursday night. And just Kyle Pitts dropping 40 points on me left me bewildered. And just befuddled. And that was just the beginning of the shellacking, which I knew was going to come. As soon as I saw 40 points from the guy who's like probably the worst player on his team, got 40 points. A guy who I'm thinking is going to put up 6, maybe 2, puts up 40. Well, my guy who was supposed to give me 15 gives me 7. I'm just like, this isn't good. That's not how you want to start. I was done Thursday night. So yeah, it was kind of a rough football weekend, which really just made me realize just how much time I waste watching football. Because I was just like, this is just sad. He ended up putting up 200 points, phenomenal. And as I said, his team is like rock solid, awesome. So it's not like I lost to like a loser team. I mean, he's got a great team. He scored more points than anyone else this year. So congrats, Joe. But I'm not sure how I got in there. They're mad we're not getting the worst illegals, but then get mad when we go to court to get the criminal illegals. They're just mad. They're just mad. That's what it is. They're just mad. I guess people need. I guess I appreciate it. You guys are way too kind. Thank you, Sadie the fart. What's the fartback lady? Really? That's a new name. That's not the name you used to have. But let's go, Joe. All right, and Lizzie popping on in here with a fitty also. And what can I say other than goal? There we go. Like I said, I never know when we're gonna hit it when we're not. This one looked like we were not gonna make it, and then all of a sudden, Brian came in there and KPT and more Brian and Liz, and Nancy, Allegan, everyone here. Sadie the fartback lady. God bless you guys. Not to mention Melkor, Cars in Dimension. Awesome. Awesome job. All right. Let's get back to work. What can I say? I'm good to go. Europe must protect Christmas markets at extreme levels because of the large number of immigrants it has allowed that attacks them. Europe must protect Christmas markets at extreme levels because of the large number of immigrants it has allowed that attacks them. Everything changes when you bring in a whole different culture that's got nothing to do with the type of culture that your residents have. People love saying diversity is your strength, is our strength, which doesn't make any sense at all. It's completely irrational. Diversity is our strength if people are inclined to actually, sort of work and fit in, which some of them do. And it's not even a strength. It's just not really a weakness. It's like, oh, okay, it's just more people who are hopefully contributing. But it's not because they're diverse that we're stronger. It's like diversity. It's not diversity is our strength. It's that diversity sometimes doesn't kill you is a more accurate assessment. Diversity is never the strength. You're not stronger because of diversity. It's diversity may not destroy your country. It may, but it may not. That's what diversity is. All right. Now I gotta reassess. I really think we're gonna. I didn't think we were gonna hit the goal. I was like, nah, it's Monday. No one wants to go gold hunting today. You guys surprised me. You surprised me. I didn't think we were gonna go there. All right. Well, in that case, I did have a bunch of things I wanted to cover with you. I gotta find it all. Now I gotta find it all. All right. Let's X this out. Give me 30 seconds. I gotta pop open my links here. All right. Yeah, I got. Oh, okay. Yeah. I knew I had a whole bunch of things here that I hadn't scratched the surface on. Had not even scratched the surface on. Okay. So apparently, one of the things I need to talk to you about is Section 230. So apparently, there's a talk now about getting rid of Section 230. In fact, let me pull this up real quick. Section 230 in the news. Let's see what we got going on here. Okay. This is going to surprise some of you, but for one reason or another, I seem to be siding with the left on this particular issue, which I don't remember the last time I actually uttered a sentence remotely like that. U.S. Senator moves to file Section 230 repeal. What is the law? How will a ban affect your free speech on the internet? Okay. That's Sheldon Whitehouse, who's a terrible human being. Terrible, terrible human being. Grade A liar. U.S. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse on Friday said that he was moving to file a bipartisan bill to repeal Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. Section 230, passed in 1996 as part of the Telecommunications Act, has become the center of an intense political debate in recent years. At long last, we are proceeding to file a bipartisan Section 230 repeal. We've been working on that for a long time. I think it's time now to make the decision. People in this committee who want to join the bipartisan bill can join, and people who don't want to, they don't have to. Waiting any longer, I don't think serves any useful purpose, so I thank Senator Graham for proceeding that way, he added. I feel very uncomfortable siding with folks like this, like Lindsey Graham and Sheldon Whitehouse. I feel very uncomfortable siding with them. It's making me reassess everything I know about Section 230, because I happen to be for repealing Section 230, and these same folks are on my side, and I'm just like, what is happening here? Continue reading. Continue reading.
Long last, proceeding to file a bipartisan Section 230 repeal. We've been working on that for a long time, and I think it's time now to make the decision, and people in this committee who want to join the bipartisan bill can join, and people who don't want to, they don't have to, but waiting any longer I don't think serves any useful purpose. So I thank Senator Graham for proceeding that way.
So there you go. Section 230 is being put potentially on the chopping block. Section 230 of the Communications Act of 1934. I hope this link will open it up. Open it up. Give it to me. Give it to me. Give it to me. Give it to me. Give me Section 2. I just want Section 230. I don't need your stupid thing. Give me Section 230 was born. Show it to me. No, I just want Section 230. I don't need your whole history here. Yeah. I just want Section 230. Fine. I'll put. Give me the actual thing. Just give me the language. It's been a while since I talked about Section 230. All right. I want you to understand what Section 230 is, but I really wanted the precise language of Section 230 because that was the key thing. Here it is. Okay. That's the key thing. I want you all to understand the significance of Section 230 and why it's so important and why I happen to be of the opinion that we need to get rid of Section 230 or at least greatly modify it. So, back in the early halcyon days of the internet, there was all sorts of litigations that were going on related to defamation. You may or may not be aware of this, but when someone engages in the act of defamation, what they are actually doing is you have to be publishing something that's derogatory about a third party. The key word in this sentence that I just used in this context is the word publishing. Publishing does not mean what you think of in a publisher of books, although it could be, or a publisher of magazines, although it could be. Publishing means you're just making the statement. The nature and form as to where you make that statement can come in any of an endless number of ways. You can defame someone via by a message in a bottle, a TV advertisement, an article in a newspaper or a magazine, in a book, in an interview. Whatever medium you're on, whatever form of communication you're using, that is where you are publishing it. You are publishing, it's considered publishing. Publishing just means making the statement somewhere that it can be heard by third parties. So you're either publishing it on that message that you're putting into a bottle, or you're publishing it on the airwaves or on the internet or on some blog or on a podcast. You're publishing. Now, when someone engages in defamation, the plaintiff, who is the person who's affected by that derogatory statement, can choose the speaker and say, I'm suing you because you just defamed me. I got damaged. Damages could be per se, they could be per quad, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to get into that part of it, but they get damaged. Their reputation has been harmed, and they might have suffered some financial damages or otherwise. So we say, who can you, the victim of this defamation, sue? Well, you can sue the speaker, and you can sue whoever was part of the chain of production in publishing this defamatory statement. That is the key element here, because very often, when people are engaging in defamation, so they're the ones who are speaking it, the one whose the words come out of their mouth or off of their fingertips on a keyboard, which clacks too loudly, or off their pen. The persons who are involved in distributing that, in publishing it, in making it available for the public to hear the published speech, can also be sued. And very often those parties have a lot more money than the original author of the statement. First guy goes out there and says something derogatory about Elon Musk or Donald Trump or Joe Schlabotnik. Doesn't matter who, Rachel Maddow, they defame that person. Often the person who writes the words, speaks the words, has next to nothing in his pocket. That's not who you'd want to sue. Instead, you would if you're the counsel and you want to you're counsel for this victim, and the victim himself, you want to make money off of this, get recompensed, you're far more often able to find a much deeper pocket, a more exciting pocket to dig into, if you actually go after the publishers, the steps in the chain that help publish that defamatory statement. So even though it's being said by John Smith could be virtually homeless, or what we would call judgment proof, because they're virtually bankrupt. You're not going to be able to get any money out of them. And instead, you'd rather go after the publishers, the people who are helping publish. Now, this is something that's been going on since the dawn of defamation suits here in America. The notion that you go after people in the steps of the chain of production there. And this brought about a recognition that, hey, some people who are in that chain of command, or the chain of process, the people who are helping distribute this stuff, some of them really have no idea what the hell is being published. And it seems kind of onerous to put upon them that they're now going to be subject potentially to have to defend from a lawsuit when they don't even know what the hell's written. They have no jurisdiction over it, and they're not really an editor who's publishing it. They're not helping write it or facilitate those words. They're simply a clearinghouse. They're distributors. So books come in, magazines come in. Let's say you own a store or a little bodega, what we call them in New York, those little stores that sell like magazines, stuff like that. You have no idea what the hell's in these articles. Someone writes something defamatory. Now, all of a sudden, because I helped distribute this, I'm going to be on the hook. So the law came out, Supreme Court came out with this, I think back in the 50s, where they basically said, hey, if you're just a distributor, you cannot be held liable for defamation, because you're not controlling the content. In order for the person who's really going to be be held liable, there has to be some sort of editorial control that is going on. And if you don't have the editorial control, you're not going to be subject to it. So if someone writes an article in a newspaper, and now you have an editorial board that's reviewing it, or an editor is looking at it, and working as an agent for the New York Times, and they engage in defamation in that article in the New York Times. Now, because you have control over what's going into your newspaper, the New York Times, could be held liable for that. But when the New York Times then goes and gets sold in your local Barnes and Nobles or your Random House, or it's sold by a local bodega, those people have no control over the content that's being carried there, and they cannot be held liable, even though there is some sort of control that they are displaying, because they'll decide to sell this paper, not that newspaper. So you might say that they're establishing some control. That's not considered editorial control. They're just considered distributors, and they are not considered liable. This is the state of affairs of the law of defamation in general, coming into the 1990s, when the internet is born. And we're trying to figure out, what do we do with these internet service providers? The ones who are holding up these blogs, these different message boards or social media thing is starting to be born at this point. Can you now, if you're a victim of defamation, can I now go after MySpace and sue them because someone puts up a defamatory statement and they're hosting it? They're in charge of it. So there was a case that was called Stratton, what was it? Oakmont. What's it called? Stratton Oakmont. And this whole, where this issue came up of, can the internet service providers who are hosting message boards, and these are deep pockets, are they going to be liable for defamation? And the first thought you would have is, no, they're not liable, because they're just distributors. What makes them any different from someone else? What makes them any different at all from a bookstore? You can't hold Barnes and Noble liable just because one of their books contains defamation in it, because they're just distributors. So this too, the internet service provider, they're not looking at what's going on there. So we're not going to hold them liable. That's where we started. But then we realized, hey, they do have some control. They take down messages sometimes. And in fact, we want them to exert some control. We want them to have that power, because sometimes folks out there are kind of sick, and they might put up some things that are very disturbing and evil and disgusting and awful and kind of terrible reflections on the human mind. So we want these internet service providers to exercise control, so that otherwise kids are not going to be able to access, basically see, horrible videos of, really evil or lascivious conduct, which will turn their stomachs and warp their young fertile minds. So we basically want them to be establishing some level of control. Well, now we're asking internet service providers, or MySpace back in the early 90s, or Facebook, or then ultimately Twitter, which becomes X, and all these other social media platforms. We kind of like the idea of you moderating stuff, because we want you to moderate stuff, so that you sort of can help keep the internet from poisoning the minds of anyone who comes across it. So we kind of like the idea of you moderating it. But here's the problem: is once you start moderating it, you start saying, "This I allow, this I don't allow, this I allow, this I don't allow, this I'm going to change, this I'm not going to. I'm going to make you alter." Now the internet service provider or the platform, the social media platform, is now playing a role of editor. Once they play the role of editor, now they can be held liable in a defamation suit. So if someone writes something that ends up being defamatory and they miss it, and it goes up there, all of a sudden the victim of that can now come in as a plaintiff and say, I'm not just going to sue John Smith who wrote it, I'm going to sue Facebook. I don't care if it's Meta, I'm still calling it Facebook in my lawsuit here. That would not be a wise move. So what should we do with that? Well, Congress says we don't like this idea. We want them to be able to controlling things and moderating stuff, but they're going to go out of business. Because every time some jackass decides to make up some crap and write it out there and puts it on the internet, you're going to see 4 internet companies have to close down. And they're going to be facing one lawsuit after another. Every 10 seconds, they're going to be brought in for another lawsuit that they have to defend. That's their fault that this stupid post got up there. And potentially facing tremendous legal exposure. No one will be able to survive. What do we do with that? So Congress creates Section 230. And it says, look, you internet service providers, you want to be in that sweet spot where you're considered distributors, not publishers. And this is the key distinction that I was building toward. That if you're a bookstore and you don't have editorial control, you're considered a distributor. You want to be in that distributor group because if you're in that distributor group, you're insulated. You can't be sued because you're not having any moderation or any control, so you're automatically protected and you're safe. As opposed to being an editor/publisher, where now you're in the zone of danger for any jackass who comes up there and decides to write something defamatory that you too can be named as a co-defendant in that lawsuit. So you really want to be classified as a distributor, not as a publisher. It's very important. That helps protect you from infinite legal exposure when you have the masses coming and writing all sorts of garbage, much of which is not true on the internet. I know you saw it on the internet. It doesn't mean it's true. Sorry to burst your bubble. So for one of those things that are not true and derogatory, that we don't want to have every one of these internet companies having to shut down and close down. So they said, you know what? Congress came out there and said, we want the internet to grow and flourish. We want these internet service providers and these different social media companies to be able to flourish without being afraid that they're going to be facing literally 1,000 lawsuits every day. How can we do this? So they entered and came up with the concept of Section 230. And they say, we're going to treat these social media companies, these internet service providers, the AOLs, the Verizons, and the Sprints, and the phone company, we're going to treat all of them as if they're distributors, even though they're moderating, because we want them to moderate. We want them to moderate. So even though they're showing some editorial control, we're still going to keep them in that safe harbor zone of being distributors, not considered publishers. And again, if you're in that safe harbor zone, then when some other schmuck comes out there and writes something, well, you're just a distributor. You can't be sued. If you're a publisher, you're smack in the line of fire for whatever some jackass you never heard before decides to write. So Congress said, we're going to take these internet companies and classify them as distributors, while at the same time they're still, even though they're exhibiting editorial control. The way they worded it, that all is fine. That's all logical. That all makes perfect sense. But they went too far in the language. How so? Well, the way they went too far in the language was the words that they used. In Section 230C2 provides that the interactive computer service providers and users may not be held liable for any voluntary good faith action to restrict access or availability of material that the provider or user considers to be obscene. So now what Congress is saying here is you're still going to be a distributor even though you're shutting down certain posts, even though you're editorializing and removing certain posts. You're not going to be removing posts if the reasons, no matter how many posts you remove, they have to be qualified as any of the following. If you're shutting them out because of these reasons, you're fine. What type? Well, if it's something that's obscene and you're removing that, you're still a distributor, safe zone. If they're lewd, lascivious, filthy, all of that, you want to remove that, you're fine. You're in safe harbor. You're still a distributor. You're not a publisher. If you remove stuff that's excessively violent, fine. You're still a distributor, not a publisher. We're not going to consider that as if it's editorialized control. Still safe distributor. If they're harassing someone, still fine. Still a distributor. You want to take down harassing posts? We say, God bless, amazing. You're not an editor. You can now still have that safe zone of being a distributor or otherwise objectionable. If you're removing something that's also otherwise objectionable, you're still a distributor. That's the problem. These three words right here, or otherwise objectionable. That is the key. These three words are the problem. These three words screw up Section 230. Why? Why do these three words screw up Section 230? Because the whole reason that we're passing Section 230 and saying that you're going to be safe as a distributor and not a publisher is because you're coming in there and you're really just trying to protect the public from things that are clearly terrible, clearly dangerous, clearly bad. They're filthy or they're violent or it's harassing some poor teenage girl. These are things that we could all come together and agree that we want you, everyone, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, every good moral person would say that's probably a good thing for us, for them to be shielding. The problem is that when they threw in this fourth category, because people tend to throw together these three as one category, this is basically sexual type of stuff. This is violent stuff. This is harassing stuff. These three things, everyone get together and say, yeah, it's probably a good idea if we let them moderate that. But the problem is that we let them moderate or otherwise objectionable. Because what ended up happening by putting in these or otherwise objectionable is that all of a sudden you got places that are like Twitter or Facebook or YouTube or countless other agencies that basically started saying to themselves, you know, this thing which is promoting notions of Biden being a bad president, I find that kind of objectionable. I'm going to remove that. All of a sudden, they can remove whatever the hell they want. They're never qualified as an editor, as if they're editorializing. So now, under the umbrella protection of Section 230, all of these different internet companies now can start playing the role of editor. Where, hey, we don't like this story from the New York Times about 5180, and we're going to basically, you know, about the Hunter Biden laptop, we're going to kill that story. What do you mean you're killing that story? I thought you're just a distributor. You don't care about what's going on here. No, we're going to kill that story. Why? We find it objectionable. That's exactly the sort of thing which is showing editorialization, that you're controlling the nature of content that's coming in here, like an editor is, for your own personal viewpoints, and still, we're not going to treat you like an editor. We're going to treat you in the safe harbor of being a distributor. The whole reason that we gave them these protections, the only reason we gave them these protections is because we want the free flow of information, right? I want the free flow of information without there being basically every time I turn on my computer and look on the internet, that I'm just going to see one graphic beheading after another, or some woman shaking around parts of her body that really should not be seen by any human or dude. Or I can't guess what they are. And we just don't want that. We also don't want people being harassed, right? I don't want some poor kid being harassed by a bunch of sick bullies in their class who are trying to humiliate or embarrass him or her. So we all can get our heads around that and say, you know what? When they're protecting those folks, they're really acting nobly. But when you add in or otherwise objectionable, what you're basically saying is they control information on the internet, whatever they want to put out there, especially if they're a powerful social media company, they can allow narratives to flourish and other narratives force them to die. That's exactly the editorial type of control, which should make them subject as if they are a publisher, because you're deciding what goes through, you're deciding what does not go through. And once you're exerting that type of control under this umbrella of, I'm allowed to do that, you can't sue me, I'm not an editor, because I'm allowed to move anything objectionable, and I find this post, which is basically claiming that there's some sort of problem with, I don't know, some sort of remedy for a 2020 problem, I consider that to be objectionable. So you start using, I don't know, the I word, all of a sudden I'm going to just start editorializing and ruining that, but still, I'm just a distributor. I'm just a distributor here. That's all I'm doing. So that's inconsistent with being a distributor. And this basically made these companies powerful, really powerful, without any repercussion for exerting that power. It made X and Meta and all these different companies exceedingly powerful, in certain ways more powerful than countries, having more money than certain countries out there and exerting more worldwide influence than countries. Far more influence than any individual member of Congress has. So now you tell me why it is that when they're exerting that influence and controlling the nature of conversation, the only reason we gave this power is that we could have a free flow and have this free flow of information, and they're basically deciding what information can be spoken and what cannot, and still not even be subject to potentially being hit with any defamation suit because Section 230, they're protected. And the protection of Section 230 has gone even further, where even when they write things out there themselves, half the time they're like, oh, judges misunderstand Section 230 and say, well, you can't sue them, Section 230. It's like, no, it's supposed to be protecting them if third parties speaking, not they themselves speaking, but still, it ends up working for them a lot more than it should. But if we strip away Section 230, if we take these protections away, they can no longer exert that influence. Because as soon as they start exerting that influence, they are opening themselves up to a Pandora's box of litigation that would drown any company. Any company. Doesn't matter how it does. All of them combined couldn't possibly withstand the litigations that would come if they all start becoming subject to daily defamation lawsuits in the thousands, because they keep editorializing, and a judge finds that as a matter of law, they are not distributors, they're editors. They're editorializing. It changes everything with the way that it would make free speech flow. In ways, because now all of these internet companies would basically, anytime they want to stand behind Section 2, if they want to stand behind Section 230, now they're going to have to establish that they're not removing things because they're otherwise objectionable. That would be an ideal setting where they leave these three in, the sex, violence, and harassing, and just take out those last three words, or otherwise objectionable. That's what I'm a fan of. Will that happen? Who the heck knows? They want to repeal Section 230 altogether. That does not sound like a great idea to me, but so, as they say, generally provides immunity for online computer services with respect to third-party content generated by their users. Key provision is C1 states that no provider user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as a publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider, meaning some poster who's, posting on Facebook, Facebook's not going to be liable for. This provides immunity to platforms like Facebook, TikTok, X, Instagram from content posted by users, essentially making free speech online. Who's against Section 230? Federal Democrat lawmakers, including White House, have rallied behind repealing Section 230. Lawmakers, including Senators Lindsey Graham, Dick Durbin, have all supported repeal to spur a renegotiation of its provisions. Like I said, you just got to take out three words. During his first presidency, U.S. President Donald Trump called to repeal the law and sign an executive order attempting to curb some of its protections, though it was challenged in court. Why do people not want to repeal it? So this is a good question. While many politicians want Section 230 to be repealed, experts and analysts have warned against the effects of such a move. Section 230, often touted as the 26 words that created the internet, I don't know about that, does not provide, I guess, I can understand it though, does not provide blanket immunity to internet service providers and still hold them accountable for instances like sex trafficking and hate speech. However, repeal in total can mean increased censorship, a flurry of litigation, and a negative effect on the innovation of free expression. Just the opposite. Just the opposite. They wouldn't dare do it. An article by The Conversation, MIT management professor Sinan Aral warned, if you repeal Section 230, one of two things will happen. Either platforms will decide they don't want to moderate anything, or platforms will moderate everything. That's true. That I agree with. It's more likely they won't moderate anything. Without the immunity, and here's the thing, when Section 230 was written, you didn't have the quick processing that we have now. The internet was a much slower thing. Everything was on dial-up, for crying out loud. It took like 40 seconds to get onto the internet. Downloading something which had and there was no way for them to monitor what was happening. Now they can be monitoring like 1 billion messages in a blink of an eye. So back then they had no way of knowing what was being said, and there was more logic towards giving them a little more of a free pass. Now they have the technology to monitor everything that's happening on the platform the moment it happens. Without the immunity from Section 230, platforms can be held responsible for content that its users post, leading to possible removal of content that they deem may result in a litigation against the company. Yeah, I think instead they're just going to maintain their distributor status by not monitoring anything. And then you should have them, give them freedom to monitor against sex, violence, and harassment. It's really that simple. It's just those 3 words. That's all you need to take care of. So that's potentially good news. That at least it's in the works. It's an interesting array of. I'm sure that Silicon Valley is not too excited about that, because why would they want to move away from anything that's just a blanket protection? But it's interesting alignment of White House Graham and Trump and Biden. That is a very interesting array of the stars. Not too many issues you can find that, and I'm in that camp. I'm in the Trump, Biden, White House, Graham camp. It feels weird, but that is the case. This guy here. I literally tweeted this earlier. Repealing Section 230 destroys the internet. Forget age verification and codes. Repealing Section 230 is the most dangerous thing you can do to ensure internet is non-existent. All user-generated content would disappear. No. 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 That is not accurate. Alternatively, they'll just stop monitoring anything. Which is why you really do want them moderating against sex violence and harassment. So that's one positive. Another positive I have for you all. Let me just do a quick check over here, make sure the ghetto is everything's going on okay in the ghetto. So I haven't looked in here in a minute. Not since I started talking about Section 230. So I need to peek in. Peach says, Joe, take the change from the cut of this Rumble rant and use it to shim that keyboard so it doesn't rock like the Titanic gearing up for the splits. This year, I plan on getting a new keyboard. This year. That's right, in 2025. The year of the new keyboard. This year. I have 2 weeks to get a new keyboard. One of you recommended a keyboard. I'm going to say right now, to me, like a keyboard is like not that big. Tell me which keyboard you think I should get. I started looking at keyboards. Someone had sent me a super chat once suggesting a particular one, but I'm watching the chat now. Which keyboard? Tell me which one. Which one should I get? And don't make me get some stupid $200 keyboard. I want a stupid $40 keyboard. That's okay. I never understood the excitement people have over like, a fancy keyboard. I'm willing to get one, but I feel crippled by indecision over which one. Nice. Logitech. Red Dragon, whatever's on sale. IBM model 5251. All right, let me see this. IBM 5251. You see, I don't think that's bastard. This is what this guy's getting me here. Let me see Red Dragon. Red Dragon keyboard. Maybe that is the problem. Maybe I just have like very thick fingers. That could be the problem. Like I just have like, like hammer fingers. All right. So when I put in Red Dragon, I don't even see Red Dragon. I don't even know what this means. This is what I'm getting. Here, Red Dragon. Gaming mechanical keyboard. Fine. This will work. If I get this, will you guys shut up? Will I stop hearing about it? Okay, now I'm going to hear about... I buy power? I really do get all of these have like a million colors and they all are like these colorful things. They're all like that. See, this is stupid. I don't want to have to sit here trying to figure out what I'm looking to a day when like the eyes are like just basically like I can't even see these letters. Any mechanical keyboard replace will allow you to get rubber O-rings to dampen the key noise. Alone, the keys are clacky, which I prefer. What is numpad? I don't know what numpad is. Like in the number pad? No, why would I ever use the number pad? I don't even know why people ever use that. I'm really leaning towards this. You're all never gonna see it anyway. This is a Dell keypad I'm using here. I can't. The cord is too tight for me to show you. Any mechanical keyboard, I got this. Send video demo of the 5251 IDM known as the loudest keyboard ever made. All right. All right. I got other stuff to cover with you guys. I got other stuff. I found JD Vance in the news, and I pulled down a couple of these clips also. So JD Vance says the assassination of Charlie Kirk was the only time he's ever seen President Trump stunned. This is him talking about it.
That meeting was breaking up, and I looked at my phone as I always do between meetings, and all my signal chats and my text groups were lighting up with people that I was in a text chat with Charlie saying, "Charlie, give us an update. What's going on, man?" And that was kind of when I realized something was not right. And then, of course, I got the brief from my staff. I looked at social media. I realized what had happened. And I'll never forget the first 20 minutes or so. We were getting updates from Charlie's team. We actually thought things were going to go okay, or at least we had a glimmer of hope. You know, he got to the hospital. He had a heartbeat. He was still alive. And, of course, he didn't make it. And that was one of the toughest moments of my life. And I remember walking to the Oval Office and telling the president. And, of course, you know, the president is a person who always has something to say. You know, he has that ability. And that was one of the few times where the president I've ever seen him, the only time I would say, where I've seen the president stunned. And he just sat back in his chair and he was like, man, he fought very hard for us, didn't he? And he did. And that's one of the things that I want to take into 2026 is this sense of how many people have sacrificed for me, have sacrificed for the President of the United States, have sacrificed for all of us to be able to do the job that we do.
Which is why you got to get it done. Which is why you got to get it done. That's why I was also encouraged by a different speech he gave where he said this.
Okay, so here's something that I want conservatives. I want every conservative to remember. It's an important part of my entire political philosophy. Is we cannot be afraid to do something because the left might do it in the future. The left is already going to do it regardless of whether we do it. That is the takeaway of the last 40 years. And in particular, if you look at what we're doing, if Joe Biden wanted to deploy the national, okay.
So yeah, I hope what he's saying here is abolish the filibuster. Look, let's face it, JD Vance is not just the president of the Senate, the tie-breaking vote in there. He's also the guy who is a former senator. Like he knows all these guys pretty well. He's working alongside them. So he's in a great position to push forward with the abolishing the filibuster. There is one caveat about abolishing the filibuster, which I think is what he's leading toward. There is one caveat about that, which is the Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski factor. And that is, I can see, would it shock anyone if we saw that there was a Lisa Murkowski, a Susan Collins, Murkowski from Alaska, or Collins from Maine, two Republicans, who they would say, I don't think it's right that we're abolishing the filibuster, so I'm voting against Republicans because I don't want to win with just 50 votes. And they just need one or two more to come along with that retardo perspective. And then abolishing the filibuster would result in us getting 48 votes every time because you have a handful of senators who are pretending that on principle, I'm voting no, because I think we should never have gotten rid of the filibuster. That is a danger, because does anyone think that Murkowski is not petty enough to do that? That Susan Collins not petty enough to do that? To basically be a routine no vote because they're angry that we abolished the filibuster? I wouldn't be surprised. So, yeah, these people are disasters. They're disasters. What do you guys use the number pad for? I don't know what would you be using it for? Why? Why? We really should hit 500 likes. That should happen. I'm in a new time right now, so like the likes are important. They're important. So there was one other clip that I stumbled on. Let me get this last story. Let me get this. Give you some encouragement that our FBI has some sort of clue about what they're doing. Breaking update: pro-Palestinian terrorists arrested for LA New Year's Eve bombing plot, planned future attack on ICE. The FBI has arrested 4 individuals who are said to be part of a radical pro-Palestinian extremist group for a terror plot that would have targeted LA on New Year's Eve. They were allegedly planning coordinated bombing attacks at 5 separate locations across New Year's Eve using improvised explosive devices, what we call IEDs. The 4 arrested are self-identified members of a radical offshoot of the Turtle Island Liberation Front, the FBI told Fox News. The extremist group has anti-government, anti-law enforcement, and pro-Palestinian beliefs. These are all 3 the same thing. Anti-government, anti-law enforcement, and pro-Palestinian are all 3 the same. They're all spawned from one mindset. None of which is actual genuine concern for people. The 4 were arrested in Lucerne Valley, California. The FBI said the 4 were believed to have been preparing to test explosive devices in preparation for the attack. They've been charged with conspiracy and possession of destructive device. A 5th individual, believed to also be connected to the same extremist group, was also arrested in New Orleans for allegedly planning a separate attack. And here's Pam Bondi on it, saying after intense investigation, the DOJ working with our FBI prevented what would have been a massive and horrific terror plot in the Central District of California. Turtle Island Liberation Front, a far-left pro-Palestinian, anti-government, anti-capitalist group, was preparing to conduct a series of bombings. Incredible effort by our U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI to ensure Americans can live in peace. So that's good. That's good work there. Arrested were Audrey Eileen Carroll, Zachary Aaron Page, Dante Gaffield, and Tina Lay, part of the Daily Wire's Mary Margaret Olahan. An FBI arrest affidavit stated the target locations were property and facilities operated by 2 separate companies that use or engage in activities affecting interstate and foreign commerce. Page and Carroll allegedly discussed plans for future attacks after New Year's Eve bombings, namely plans to commence targeting ICE with pipe bombings beginning in January or February 2026, with Carroll noting that would take some of them out and scare the rest of them. The affidavit included photos of signs that read "Death to ICE," "Death to America," as well as bomb-making supplies. Cash Patel saying, over the weekend, the FBI disrupted a credible imminent terrorist threat and arrested 4 individuals connected with to the LA area. Subject self-identifies members of a radical offshoot called the Turtle Island Liberation Front, an extremist group motivated by pro-Palestinian, anti-law enforcement, anti-government ideology. Why do I say that these 3 all come from the same thing? Because the whole pro-Palestinian thing is not at all about actually helping Palestinians. It is a fight against established government for what's considered perceived altruism, which is really rooted in narcissism. It's really rooted in envy. Anti-law enforcement, anti-government ideology. They were allegedly planning coordinated IED bombings. And he's giving his kudos to the Justice Department, which this is what they do whenever something good happens. They're always going to compliment each other. So here's a clip of it. That wasn't it. That wasn't it. Here it is.
I'll highlight some of the items found during those searches over the weekend. For example, in Carroll's residence, law enforcement found multiple posters and materials associated with Turtle Island Liberation Front, including posters stating, quote, "Death to America, long live Turtle Island and Palestine," and quote, "Death to ICE, Turtle Island Liberation Front." In Page's residence, law enforcement found a copy of the detailed bomb attack plan. This case is another reminder about the dangers that radicalized Antifa-like groups pose to public safety and the rule of law. I'll highlight some of the items found during those searches over the weekend. For example, in Carroll's residence.
So what I was saying when I was explaining that these are all the same thing, death to ICE, justice for Palestine, all these people are the same. Because ultimately what it's about is we want what we want. We don't give a damn whether it's right or not. And we're going to engage in violence to get what we want. That's what, these are all the same thing. Just a matter of what portion of the world it is. But we're going to characterize our mission as being altruistic. We're here to help the little guy, the poor, underprivileged one. When that's not the case, invariably, yeah, there'll be this individual or that individual, but they're completely disregarding the impact that they're having on society writ large. They're completely disregarding the fact that, they're standing up for folks who will happily kill people who get in their way, because they themselves will kill people who get in their way. These are very sick individuals who basically expect to be coddled and that they should get what they want. And if they don't get what they want, that they're not simply going to stamp their feet in an AOC type of way, but that they're actually going to harm people until they get what they want. And they constantly try to, engage in this masturbatory, self-love about what great virtuous people they are and how they're fighting against, Satan himself. But if they believed in such a thing, which unless they're actually Muslims, they don't. But it's always some righteous cause that's designed to that makes them feel good about themselves, when really they're just a bunch of losers who are trying to find some way to feel better about their own miserable existences. So good on Cash Patel and Pam Bondi for nabbing those people. That's actually a good shining moment for people who need many more and many more significant shining moments. And I guess I can close out with Jasmine Crockett just because. Jim shared this with me. I haven't had a chance to even look at this, but we're gonna learn about it together. Jasmine Crockett's Texas Senate bid, just because when I saw it, I was like, oh, that looks interesting, sends Democrats into a tailspin. She might win a primary, but she ain't winning a general in Texas. Uh-oh. Oh, no. Oh, no. Crockett is Texas tough. Over the last couple of months or so, as rumors swirled that Representative Jasmine Crockett was mulling a Senate run. She's not mulling a Senate run. She's engaging in a Senate run because she lost her House seat. And later, when she confirmed she was considering it, the laughter could barely be contained. After all, Democrats in the Blexus movement have been fantasizing for years about turning the Lone Star State blue, especially after the inroads they believe then Representative Beto O'Rourke had made in his failed 2018 Senate campaign against Ted Cruz. Was it a Crockett Senate run when she made official earlier this week after former Representative Colin Allred dropped out of the race, something Democrats wanted to happen amid what they are viewing as a momentum shift in their direction going into 2026? As it turns out, many of them don't, with at least 6 House Democrats telling Axios they fear the potential impact of her candidacy should she win the primary on down ballot races. In other words, what's the down ballot race? They're saying she's going to get so geschmetted in the Senate, in the general election for the Senate, that people will just be like, okay, Jasmine Crockett, definitely no. Let's go with the Republican. And then they just start checking off Republican boxes after that, and that's going to hurt us. We're afraid she's going to get so blown out of the water that it's going to hurt us. And if we're living on the margins of trying to win and hold on to our House seats, she might just sink us with her. Representative Jasmine Crockett has left some of her fellow House Democrats infuriated after launching a bid for U.S. Senate in Texas. Many in the party fear the anti-Trump firebrand will alienate swing voters and drag down Democrats in the state if she clinches the nomination, including in several key House races that could decide control of the lower chamber. This would be so beautiful. You know, so beautiful. She might win a primary, but she ain't winning a general in Texas, said a senior House Democrat who, like others quoted in the story, spoke on conditioned anonymity because they're cowards and afraid of actually standing up to her. That's what it is. To offer candid thoughts about a colleague. It's concerning for swing districts. I think it's a bad decision, said a second House Democrat. There's a lot of concern she won't win if you have Paxton in there, particularly. It seems like a good target, said a fourth House Democrat. I hope Texas picks someone that can get us a seat. A fifth Democrat said, even if it's Paxton on the GOP ticket, Crockett doesn't give us a shot at winning the Senate, or at least doesn't put us in the game. They know she's got no chance. She's an idiot. Before Crockett declared her candidacy, Democrats made clear they believe there's hope for them in the 2026 Senate race, considering the competitive GOP primary that's taking place, which includes incumbent Senator John Cornyn, who sucks, and Texas AG Ken Paxton, who's awesome, who's been fighting a divisive and controversial figure among Republicans in the state, and GOP Representative Wesley Hunt, who recently challenged Crockett to a debate. Some Democrats quoted in the Axios piece pointed to a report that suggested that NRSC deliberately propped up Crockett as a candidate as a way to embolden her to run. Oh, that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. An AstroTurf recruitment process, national Republicans propped up Jasmine Crockett to push her into the Senate run. Oh, I gotta check that out afterwards. Let's check that out afterwards. The National Republican Senatorial Committee put out a poll in July with Crockett's name included, which showed her as the leading Democrat in a hypothetical matchup. Oh, this is so good. In other words, they basically set up the Democrats for failure by baiting her into running. So awesome. Following the NRSC's polls, other surveys began to include Crockett and showed similar results. She's surging in the primary. The NRSC then worked to amplify these polls and is taking credit for helping orchestrate the pile-on of these polling numbers to really drive the news cycle and the narrative that Jasmine Crockett was surging in Texas. But the Republican efforts didn't stop there, and what the source dubbed an AstroTurf recruitment process, the NRSC had allies that were seeding these new polls pretty aggressively into progressive digital spaces. When Crockett confirmed in October that she was thinking about running, and in her official announcement Monday, she cited these polls as evidence she could win the primary. She could win the primary. She just has no chance in a general. In other words, It sounds like about as much thought went into Crockett's decision to run as it did on the campaign slogan she came up with. Someone should tell Jasmine for us that stealing successful campaign slogans isn't going to help her win in Texas. What did she steal here? Oh, Texas tough? Tough as Texas? That's funny. Another Democrat, rising star, James Tallarico, is also running, which is another reason why the Democratic Party primary race should be as interesting to watch from the cheap seats as the Republican one. This is good. This is good. I'm liking it. Let's see how they propped her up. An AstroTurf recruitment process. This is devious. See, I like this sort of thing. I like the gamesmanship of like, let's see if we can get Jasmine Crockett on the Democrat ticket for a senator, because we know she's got no chance in a general. Republican Senate campaign arm has actively worked behind the scenes to encourage Jasmine Crockett to jump into the Senate Democratic primary in Texas, believing she'll be the easiest opponent to beat. Now, there is a saying, careful what you wish for, you may get it. Just a month ago, there was grave concern among Republicans about the Senate race, where incumbent Senator John Cornyn is running for re-election. Democrats were running two formidable candidates, and Cornyn was caught in the middle of a bruising three-way primary. The Republicans were concerned would weaken the eventual nominee. Cornyn sucks. He's terrible. We need to lose him. I really hope that Paxton takes him down. The National Republican Senatorial Committee put out a poll in July with Crockett's name included, which showed her as the leading Democrat in a matchup. When we saw the results, we were like, okay, let's get this far and wide. That's it. Let's make sure she sees it. The fact that she was included in the poll was no accident. In June, news broke that Texas Democrat Colin Allred, James Tallarico, and former Representative Beto O'Rourke and Joaquin Castro met to discuss the 2026 election. Any of these people would be tougher to beat. I'm not sure about Beto O'Rourke. He's kind of a loser. When you lose so many times, it leaves a sour taste. People like, you suck, we don't want you. But Tallarico could be a problem, or Allred. Operatives at the RNSC realized that Crockett, whose political stock had been rising, wasn't included in that meeting and also hadn't been included in any credible polls. So, hey, side, let's change that. Following the NRSC's polls, other surveys included Crockett, and they were to amplify it. This is so good. When I saw poll results, I couldn't ignore trends that were clear. Crockett did not return a request for comment because she's a sucker. But the Republican efforts didn't stop there. And what the source dubbed as an AstroTurf recruitment process, allies were seeding these polls aggressively. Several recruitment phone calls and text messages that went out to Democrats and high-propensity voters across the state that would urge voters to contact and advocate for Crockett to join the race. There was really a sustained effort that we orchestrated across the ecosystem for several months, source said. Not only was it getting positive news coverage, but her office was directly having traffic driven to in terms of phone calls urging her to run. Cornyn, trailing significantly in the polls to Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, please let Paxton win, and Representative Wesley Hunt was creeping up on him. Polls also showed Paxton faring worse against Allred and Tallarico. Then this past week, Allred dropped out of the Senate race, opting instead to run for the House. And Crockett, whose brand of anti-Trump, anti-Republican virality has made her popular with the progressive base, announced she would run for Senate in Texas. She even started off by basically having an ad of Trump bashing her as being complete crap, moron. Now that Crockett's in the race, the work is not done. There have been conversations when outside groups and conservative figures about the possibility of working to stand up independent expenditure arms and offshoot brands that aren't necessarily overtly Republican entities, but would prop her candidacy up to try and give us a better shot of facing her. Quote, it's not all too different than what we're kind of doing already on a daily basis at the party committee, which is helping quarterback support for Republicans. And in this case, recruitment process, much of this is as much a recruiting of strong Republicans as it is trying to find ways to prop up, very vulnerable Democrats. Wow. There you go. there you go. And there I go, my friends. I thank you all for joining me. I hope you had a good time. Hit that like, subscribe. Let's get this thing up over 500 likes. How many likes we at now? Let me do a quick refresh. 500 likes. 463. We can do better than that. Let's hit 500 likes. I'd much appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you kindly. That's my show. I'm sticking to it. Time for me to land my plan. I'm just going to remind you all that no matter where you're headed right now, no matter what you're going to do, the one thing you should not be doing is going out there and grabbing a nice big big lab steak, because lab meat's not meant for you. Never was meant for you. It's meant for they, them. You definitely don't want that. What else should I tell you? There's something else I need to tell you. Yeah. Do not eat the bugs. Don't do it. You never should do it. Just no. Good night, everyone. Thank you for joining. Hit the like, drop a comment. Godspeed.